in 2021, we found out that my grandma, who was very like prim and proper, pretty judgmental about other people's lives, very like put together Canadian British woman, very private, that she had an affair. And it was truly one of the craziest realizations because none of us could believe that she would do something like this. She was the kind of person who would be like, make sure that your porch is clean, because what if like your neighbor comes by and sees it? And what will they think about your life if it's dirty? It was obviously the most crazy for my mom because my mom is the youngest and we found out that her dad isn't her dad. My mom also spent her whole life hearing my grandma say that these things that are like, keep your porch clean, be a good person, but in the sense of like, be clean and presentable and make sure that you have a good image for other people to see. Now, this was obviously the era of women that she lived in. It's not like it was like that unique or different or crazy. But what is crazy is that my mom's family suffered from Huntington's disease. And if you don't know what Huntington's disease is, it's like a really rare disease called the cruelest disease known to man. Essentially, it just destroys your brain cells from the inside out, and you slowly just like lose who you are. This starts at the age usually of like 40s and 50s until you die from it. My mom's dad had Huntington's disease, and my mom watched her dad get sick and be put into a home and eventually die from Huntington's. And then she watched both of her siblings get Huntington's disease and die from it. Huntington's is obviously a genetic disease, so there's a 50-50 chance that your children will have it once you have it. And so my mom lived in fear for years and years and years that she would develop this disease. She had me and my brother in her late 30s and me when she was 40, and so she was terrified. Like, the symptoms started to come on in your mid 40s, according to her family. I've talked to her about it since, and she's told me like that she did parent us differently because she felt like she had to raise children who could survive without her. And so she did kind of like try to get us to grow up faster than she would have liked. And she gave a lot of the responsibility and these things that she loved to do with kids over to my dad so that he would be prepared when she got sick. This is where I have a problem with my grandma keeping her affair a secret. I understand that she was probably full of shame and didn't want anyone to know. But my mom lived in fear that she would get Huntington's disease for so many years, to the point where she had stress-induced alopecia and couldn't sleep and was so overwhelmed by this fear. When my grandma knew that she had no chance of getting this disease because her dad wasn't her dad. But I think another interesting piece of it is like, how can shame create people who, like, the shame is bigger than even your children? When she could have literally quieted my mom's fear in one sentence, or just asked her to get tested and to see that she didn't have it. But my grandma and many women who were born during the Great Depression lived in this fear of, you have to be perfect, you have to be a perfect wife, you have to be a perfect mom, you have to show up in this specific way, and if you fail, you're a failure. And she let that rule her life. One time when she was a kid, she almost drowned, and she told me that she never swam again. And I think it was just like a deeper metaphor to her entire life. When things went wrong, she didn't try again. And I loved my grandma. Like, I lived with her for 10 years in my, like, during high school and early college, and she lived with us, and I got to hear a lot of her stories. She had this incredible life where, I mean, she lived through so much. And when she was just 2 years old, she was given to her aunt during the Great Depression because her mom couldn't care for her. Even at the very end of her life, my grandma telling me this story about her being given away, she started to cry and told me that she still has never felt like she belonged. What's so interesting is, I'm like, how shackled women of that era were, because she couldn't get her own bank account until she was 60. My grandma did her best to live the life that she wanted to live, to look the way she wanted to look, and it wasn't enough. And your true nature creeps out in certain ways. It always does. Like, the shadow self always comes out. And for her, it was that she had this affair with her high school boyfriend and had my mom. But what's crazy is sometimes our biggest shame is also our biggest gift. If my grandma hadn't have had my mom, she would have been put into a home. She would have had no family to go and stay with. after 2 of her children had died. My mom ended up being this safe place for her to live the last 10 years of her life. My mom made this whole mother-in-law suite. My grandma started crying when she saw it. She got to like live in comfort and home near the end of her life because of her mistake. And that is what's so interesting, is sometimes our greatest shame, sometimes the thing we can't look at, sometimes the thing that we really feel like we messed up, can be used as a gift and a blessing into our lives. But my grandma couldn't see that because she was still so consumed by the shame. And I think that's another thing. When you live by shame, you can't see the gifts that are coming for you. And you can't see that you can still live a beautiful life when you have made mistakes. My mom always wished to have siblings. Now she has 6 siblings in Canada. I'm a writer. My sister's a writer. We found out my grandpa loves poetry. I'm a poet. And his sister ended up publishing an incredible book in her like 30s or 40s about like racial issues in Canada, which is just like was so unique for the time. So it's like this huge piece of us, this unanswered piece of us, it is making sense. And I wish my grandma could have seen that there is life beyond what you did wrong. And sometimes it is the gift itself. Okay, so this is one of the most crazy parts, is that we found out on Ancestry. Like, a lot of people in the comments have found out other affairs. But my sister did Ancestry and then saw that we had all these matches that were our cousins that obviously weren't our cousins, but they had the last name Benson. And my sister ended up looking into like all of her matches and messaging them and being like, hey, who are you? Like, trying to figure out what was going on. And one of the girls was like, hey, you need to message my sister, because she found out that our grandpa had a child that we didn't know about. Essentially, Harvey, the guy who was my grandma's high school boyfriend and my mom's real dad, was like got drunk with one of his sons one night and started talking about my mom. Apparently he kept a picture of her in his wallet all of those years, and he told him about Huntington's disease and said they think that, sorry, I got distracted, but they think that she is a miracle, but she's really just a Benson. So that was crazy. But also, my grandma lived with my mom at the time, and she was 96 years old at the time we found out about the affair. And we like were kind of tiptoeing around it. My mom really felt like she wasn't in a mental state to like be able to confess to my mom that she had this affair and like all of this stuff, like all these years later, especially because we remembered that she had dated her high school boyfriend in her 70s. So her and Harvey had gotten back together in their 70s, and they actually got engaged before my grandma eventually called it off, saying that like it wasn't going to work. But now we think it's because my mom would have found out that Harvey is her dad. But my grandma wore both wedding rings her whole life. So she wore it from her husband, who she thought, who was my mom's dad, and then also from Harvey the rest of her life. Also, my mom's middle name is Christine, which is Harvey's sister's name. So we have to assume that my grandma knew that this was Harvey's child. But before my mom could confront my grandma about Harvey and all this Ancestry stuff, my mom ended up submitting her DNA to Ancestry and finding out that Harvey is her dad. And before my mom could confront my grandma about it or figure out if she even wanted to, my grandma died. My mom did end up having a conversation with Harvey over the phone where he claimed that my grandma wanted a kid who didn't have Huntington's disease, but we know that's not true because we didn't even know what Huntington's disease was until the late 90s. Like, it wasn't even like, we didn't even know the term of what my grandpa had, and my grandma definitely didn't know that it was genetic. And so yeah, we just know that wasn't true, but I don't know like why he was like trying to make up a story. But yes, they got engaged and in their 70s, and they really could have had like a happy marriage. They both lived until their late 90s. But I think ultimately the shame of what she did and her having to confess it to my mom, even though my mom's dad was already gone at that point, had already died, that she just wouldn't let herself live this next phase of her life. But I do kind of wonder like if they could have had like 30 good years together, and if Harvey really was like the love of her life. Also, this is what Harvey looked like, and this is what my grandma looked like.
If you're a parent, download Find My iPhone or Find My Friends immediately before your kid goes off to college, and don't take advantage of it, just for safety reasons. I feel like enough time has finally passed where I can share a story. Freshman year of college, I was at Texas A&M, and it was during COVID, okay? So what was there to do besides go on Bumble? I get on Bumble, and I'm having fun. I meet a whole bunch of different guys doing whatever. like as in like hanging out, nothing more. So let me just tell you about a weekend. One weekend I met this one guy, we're gonna call him Mark. Mark and I hit it off. I ended up seeing him in person and he is not cute, okay? However, Mark's roommate Alan is quite cute. Alan and I start hanging out, we smooch, whatever. I go home, I literally think nothing of it. Enters Chase. Chase and I are messaging. He's like, hey, I have a guys trip coming up. I really want you to come with me. Chase and his like buddies lived in Tyler, Texas. And he's like, hey, I will drive from Tyler to College Station, pick you up. I'm like, awesome, free trip, and you're gonna drive me, period. Like, the only thing I said was I need to bring on my friends. So me and Molly, we go with this random group of guys. They pick us up. There's 3 different trucks. There's probably 12 college age guys. And they pick us up. We go down to Galveston. We're having so much fun. This is where things take a little bit of a turn. What did I call him? Chase. Chase is like throwing back drinks all night, just not making the best impression in the way that he's speaking to his friends, the way that he's speaking about women. He's like already like trying to touch me inappropriately, just very uncomfortable, trying to call me his girlfriend. I had never met him in person. I know I should not have gone, okay? Whatever. So he literally is taking Crown Green Apple. To this day, I cannot look at that without thinking of him, and not in a good way. And he's like throwing it on his head. He's like, shoot it off my head. No, not happening. He's like so angry. He's like throwing like fists in the wall. Again, he has puke down his shirt. His friends are apologizing for him. Whatever. He goes to bed. I'm obviously not sleeping in the same room with him, not sleeping in the same bed with him. Absolutely not. Me and my friend Molly sleep on this like single trundle bed. I wake up the next day and I hear Chase talking absolute about me because I didn't sleep in the same bed as him. He's like, what? How disrespectful that she didn't sleep in the same bed as me, all these things. I was pissed. But at the same time, I couldn't call my parents and tell them that their sweet, innocent freshman year old child went to Galveston with a bunch of boys. That is terrible. That she didn't know. So I'm just like, we have to thug it out, Molly. Like, I'm so sorry. We can't do anything about it. And so we give him the benefit of the doubt. All of his friends go off to the beach and he like stays back because we were getting ready. We get ready. We go down to the beach. The beach is a mile from where we were staying, and it takes this man 2 hours to find his friends. The whole time he's sitting there like touching me inappropriately, like trying to like say these like sexual innuendos, like all these things. He's drinking and driving. I should have got out of the car. I don't know what I was thinking. So the only reason why we found his friends is because I finally like got his phone and I was like, we're gonna find them, Chase. We find them. He's just like, oh, I didn't see that message. Completely lies about it. Don't care. We remember that from a few days ago, we had met guy number 2, Alan, and Alan was from Houston, and Houston's like pretty close to Galveston. And so I text him and I'm like, hey, is there any way you could come pick us up? I'm so sorry. Did I tell him I was with a bunch of other boys? No. No, I didn't. I said, yes, we need to get picked up. So we are at the beach and Molly and I decide to make a run for it. And we say, hey, we're going to go to, I think we were like, we're going to go look at souvenirs. Whatever. Molly and I make a beeline back to the Airbnb. We are drunk. We have handles of like alcohol. We are literally 18 and 19 years old. Obviously minors in possession. Okay, we finally do get back. Thank God nothing happened to us. Nobody took us or whatever. We get back to the Airbnb and thank God Alan is there. Okay, so we are throwing ourselves off of the second story, like trying to get all of our crap out of there. They like had left like a hair curling iron and I think a straightener there. Whatever. I digress. But Alan picks us up and as we're pulling off, we literally see the guys coming up and they are pissed, like actually pissed. And he's blowing up my phone saying like he's gonna hunt me down, he's gonna find me, he knows where I live, all these horrible things. And I understand I shouldn't have probably Irish goodbye, but also girl, like be so for real. I am a scared child, like not child, I'm an adult, but I didn't feel safe and I need to get out of there. So I ended up blocking him. We go back with Alan. Alan drives us from Galveston all the way back to College Station. He drops me off in my apartment, walks us up. We're at Park West and Molly and I go to sleep. We think nothing about it. And Alan's car decides to die in the middle of Park West. So what does Alan have to do? He has to call the first guy, Mark, the guy I was originally talking to come pick him up. Do you know how embarrassing that is? So Mark finds out that Alan and I are obviously talking behind his back or whatever. It makes me look bad, but I just wasn't interested. And yeah, so I have Mark pissed at me. Alan's like called me. He told me 27 times asking why to answer. And then I also had Chase who was pissed at me. Yeah, it was a very, very eventful and growing season for Shelbs. Did I ever do anything like that again? No. Would it have been nice to be able to call my parents and avoid and alleviate that situation? Yeah. Are my parents my best friends yet now? Yes, but yeah. So, I don't know. Have fun in college.
Guys, story time on why I was kicked out of my house a year ago at this time. I'll try to recall the details the best I can because I honestly haven't even thought about this in a while. But yeah, this is pretty much what started like the downfall of my summer prime last year, which really wasn't a prime at all. I was getting ready to hang out with my two friends at the time. I'm no longer friends with them anymore, but that's not really relevant. We were gonna go to like this barbecue place that I'd never really heard of, but it was my friend's idea. And she wanted us all to like dress up. I don't know. I've never really been a fan of dressing up. And I had like no like actual nice clothes because I don't dress up. So I ended up FaceTiming the one girl and I was like, this is my fit. Like, take it or leave it, but that's as dressed up as I'm getting. She's like, Marin, you cannot wear that. That's exactly what she sounded like. I'm not kidding. So glad I don't associate with any of the people I was hanging out with last summer. I actually think my brain was melting the longer I was hanging out with them. So I was like, okay, then I'll hold the camera for y'all and you can dress up. So I just changed back into like a very normal fit. And by this point, like I didn't even really want to go anymore. But you know me last summer, I was literally never trying to be home. I thought literally anything was a better alternative. So I went anyways. But since I was having to like change outfits and everything, I was kind of frantic, rushed, wasn't really keeping tabs on what I was doing. I was going through a lot of carts last summer. Like I was getting a new one every couple of days. I also was getting the super tiny disposable ones that are like that big, that are super easy to misplace. So when I was putting everything in my little tiny backpack that I took everywhere with me last summer, it must have fallen out through the zipper. My dad is very against all of that, like any form of smoking, drinking, definitely anything harder than that. So obviously I've never been allowed to do any of that while living under his roof because like it's just against his values. So I fully knew that getting kicked out was very probable if I got caught. I just didn't think I ever would. So I get in the car with the friend who hated everything about me. Even the backpack that I was carrying around everywhere was because she hated my other bag so much that she bought me a new one. Like I said though, that's not really relevant. She definitely made some stylistic choices that I don't personally agree with either. I'm just not gonna be a bitch about it. So we got in the car, we were about to go pick up my other friend so we could go to this random ass like barbecue place. I opened my bag. I'm looking for my cart because I was hitting that shit like every 5 seconds last summer. I wasn't too worried though because it was always either one of two places. It was either on me or it was in my secure little hiding place at home. So I really didn't think much of it. This girl did offer to run me back home for it, but I was like, I'm not gonna try to like make up excuses to go back in for it. That felt like more suspicious to me. So yeah, everything was fine and dandy for about 5 minutes until I get a phone call from my dad saying, don't come home. I was immediately so pissed because like, what a stupid thing to get kicked out over. This hangout was never even gonna be fun enough to be worth getting kicked out over. Obviously I freaked out because I was overly dependent on that shit. Immediately had my friend turn me around, take me back to my apartment. I was like, at least let me pack a bag because if you're gonna kick me out, I at least have to have my stuff. I was less worried about being kicked out and more worried about my car being brand new. I still to this day have no idea what my dad did with it, but I never saw it again, even though I was trying to find it everywhere when I was packing my bag to leave. Really didn't do a good job of packing at all. I threw a couple really bad outfits into a tote bag because I like wasn't thinking straight. I was so upset. Like I was literally just grabbing anything I saw and putting it in there, and if it was somewhat okay looking, I was like, sure, I'll work with that. Key things that I forgot to bring: self-tanner, makeup of any sort besides what I already had in my purse. I'm sure there was more, but those two things, like, I really should not have been going without. We ended up not even going to the fancy ass barbecue place because, I don't know, by the time we met up with the other friend and I was done being kicked out, I guess it was too late for all that. I don't know. Neither of them even ended up dressing up, I don't think. Like, literally whole hangout, everybody should have just given up and gone to bed. But we ended up going to like Noodles and Company. I don't even know. It was fine. I hit up the only girl I knew who had her own apartment. I hadn't previously talked to her for a really long time because the last time I'd talked to her, I'd gotten such bad alcohol poisoning that I needed to go to the hospital. But we did like tentatively somewhat keep planning to hang out. We just like had never gotten around to it. So I was like, hey, I'm kicked out, like, now's the time. She did end up letting me stay with her for a night, and probably I could have stayed longer. I just really didn't think it was like the right environment for me at that time. I think she was also dealing with her own stuff. She'd just gotten back to her apartment after being in like a motel for a while for some reason. Her pets had gone to the bathroom on the floor in multiple different spots, and there was like 4 people in that apartment at one point, and nobody was cleaning it up. The apartment had also recently just been broken into, and the toilet paper had been stolen, so it just like wasn't the right environment I needed. I'm definitely not somebody to like judge based off your home environment. I'm sure it's not like that all the time. My first choice was originally my boyfriend at the time anyways, who wasn't even officially my boyfriend yet, but I was so sure in my heart that we were like about to make it official. We basically were, like, we hung out all day every day, like we were dating. He just had commitment issues and didn't want to say it, so he was still also in the process of convincing his mom to let me stay with him at this point in time. And basically as soon as that was all in the clear, I had him pick me up and I lived with him for the rest of the time I was kicked out, which I was thinking was gonna be really good. Like, I was honestly really excited. I was happy to spend a lot of time with him, but it just ended up not being that vibe at all. I took one of his sister's rooms. He had 2 sisters, one younger and one older, and for some reason the younger one was like in Hawaii. Like, you're 13 and you're in Hawaii without your family. I don't know, that low-key gave me FOMO, but his mom was super nice to me. Like, I was super grateful that I was allowed to stay there. I thought that was super sweet of them. This guy in general was just so, like, not good for me. I also took this opportunity to dye my hair, which was literally the worst idea I have actually ever had in my life. And I've had a lot of really bad ideas in my life, but I'm telling you, like, I really don't know why I thought that that was gonna turn out good. Raccoon stripe hair in general is not my style anymore, and even then it kind of wasn't. I very much do think it was just like an impulse thing. But with how much I messed it up, like, of course it didn't turn out good. So the horrible dye job, no makeup, no self-tanner combo, I do think probably did contribute to my boyfriend spending less and less time with me as the week progressed. I was also just really not mentally okay at all during that time, and me being depressed, like, annoyed him very much for some reason. More than half the days I was staying with him, he had to work, so I was just kind of like sitting there in his room waiting for him to get home from work. You have my full permission to throw the heaviest object you know of full speed at my head if you ever see me living like that again. But I'd been looking forward to seeing him all day. I was so excited for him to get home from work. And then when he walked in, his best friend who hated me, who he knew hated me, was with him and walked in on me while I was crying. So obviously I wasn't in the best mood, but I was still like nice to him and his friend, you know. But he got like all mad, threw a fit, went to go sit in his car for 15 minutes and just left me sitting in his room with his best friend who hated me. Like, he was always just getting mad at me for having depression, but my self-image did in fact hit an all-time low that week. And that whole friend group in general just was not good for me. Like, they really all just thought of me like a lol cow, and I didn't fuck with that one bit. I also just remembered that that boyfriend was supposed to dye his hair with me, and that was like the whole reason I even did that, but he just never did his. So anyways, my dad let me come home after about a week. I just had to agree to follow all the rules. I'm pretty sure it was just the same rules as before, and I'm just not allowed to have people over now, which I wouldn't want to do anyway, so. But yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. I am so thankful every day that I'm in a much better place than I was last summer, and yeah, hope you enjoyed.
This is my positive, unmedicated, surprise breech home birth story for all of you who are waiting to hear it. I'm so sorry. This little man is a week old today, so I thought it was time to share. And we're gonna get into it because honestly, I think it's probably gonna take up this whole 10 minutes and we need to get started. But anyways, Thursday morning of last week, my water broke, 5 a.m., woke up to like it breaking. I had a dream in the middle of the night that my baby was transverse and I went into labor, and then woke up and my water had broken. Like, that's how I woke up. And I was like, that's so weird. He's been head down the whole time that we thought. So we have no idea when he flip breach. I don't know if like he flip breach in the middle of the night and that's why my water broke. We really don't know. We'll never know. But very much so surprised. My water broke, and because I'm a birth doula, I know like your water breaks, go back to bed, especially if it's in the middle of the night or early morning. So I texted my midwife. I was like, hey, my water for sure broke. I'm going back to bed. I'll text you when I wake up. So went to bed. She texted me in the morning sometime when she saw it, and she was just like, okay, keep me updated. And I was like, contractions never started. And they really didn't start. The entire day, my husband took Thursday off. We were just home. I was like gushing fluid all day, and labor never started. And I was getting really discouraged, but I just like kept myself busy. I deep cleaned my kitchen. I vacuumed my house. Like I stayed busy, but I wasn't like killing myself. We took a nap in the middle of the day. My husband and I honestly just enjoyed our last night together before like we knew our last day together before we knew like the baby was coming. And it was like the best day ever. I'm so grateful we had that because we've been so busy. We did not expect him. Oh, also my water broke at 38 weeks in one day. Forgot to mention that. So was not prepared for this kid to come. Like was thinking I was going to go to 41, 42 weeks. That's what my social media has portrayed, that I thought I was going to go super late. So I guess anticipate going late and your baby will come early. Sometimes, maybe not, I don't know. So I don't want all the other moms to be like, oh, first time mom, my water's gonna break at 38 weeks, because it's probably not. I'm very confused why that happened. But anyways, so contractions never started, tried the pumping, tried the walking, tried to do like everything, did my circuit, nothing was working. So I was like, you know what, we're gonna do a last resort. I took castor oil. I went to bed. I was like, I'm gonna go to bed for a couple hours tonight. Went to bed at 9, woke up around like 11:30, took castor oil. Before this, I was anti-castor oil. I was not a castor oil fan. I was scared of it. Had heard really bad stories and just didn't want to take it, but labor hadn't started and my water's broken for over 18 hours. And I was like, this is, you got to choose, right? So I was like, we're choosing this. And it did get things started. I woke up, took castor oil, went to bed, woke up 2 hours later around like 1:15 and profusely vomiting, like out of the nose, all the things, for like 5 minutes. And then that was it. That was my only symptom of the first time I took castor oil. So it was worth it, and it did work because it got contractions going. For the next 2-ish hours, I just labored like on my own in bed, just like with contractions, let my husband sleep a little bit more. And then at 3, I got him up and I was like, this is intense. Like I entered active labor at that point. Got on a ball, my husband just like held my hands and we just like talked, and like in between I was okay. So we were just like talking, and then I have a contraction. I loved that time. I felt great. I labored from like 3 to 8 in the morning. And just that way, just like consistently on a ball, just like felt like I was rocking it. My midwife came, and I normally wouldn't want to be checked. I didn't really say, I said I didn't want any cervical checks, but because of how long labor was, I just wanted to see where I was at and make sure I was progressing because my water had broken. She checked me. I was 4 stretched with 5, so basically a 5, which made me feel great. I was like, this is perfect. Like I felt perfect with that. I was like, this is totally fine. Labored, she came, she's like, I'm gonna go out for a little bit. If you need me, call me back, because I just didn't want her there. So we labored from like 8 to 4 in the afternoon. And I got checked again at 4 p.m. We were definitely in active labor at that point. And got checked at 4, so 8 hours later, and I had only dilated 1 more centimeter. And this is when it kind of hit the fan, and I like had an emotional breakdown, which is why I tell people not to get cervical checks. But in this case, it actually was probably a pro for me, because my midwife and the assistants got there. My mom got there, photographer got there around like 3 or 4 p.m. And they were like, out of the assumption, they're like, this baby's stuck. They were like feeling where he was at. They were saying his head was in my pelvis and just like stuck in my pelvis. And they're like, we need to do some body work to get this kid like shimmied out of there. Which he had always been stuck in my pelvis. I felt hiccups down there. Like that's like, I definitely was like, it was like my bottom left pelvis right down there. And so we did shake the apple. We did side lying, like my whole leg was like off the bed. We did the like inversions where you're like on the couch and your like hands and like body are like top half of you is like on the floor and your like legs and hips are like up on the couch. Forget what that's called. We did exaggerated side lying. We did a lot of different things. And it worked. We shimmied his way out of my pelvis. And that moment I was like, transition hit me like a truck. I think 4 p.m. I was like dilated. She had me sleep for like an hour. And then we did all the inversions, and then I tried to sleep. And right when I went to go back to try to sleep, it hit me so hard. Like it was like 9 or 10 p.m. and it was like, bam, transition. And I was in transition for a hot minute. I was in transition for like 5-ish hours, 5-6 hours. I don't really know exactly how many hours. But I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was starting to lose control, and I personally, from a birth doula, have seen what happens when you lose control. And I like freaked out to my midwife, and I was like, I'm losing control, please help me. And she was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, can I get in the bath? And she said yes. So I had a birth pool set up. Everyone told me to do the birth pool. It was in my living room. It was there. Everyone was in my living room. I didn't want people around me. It felt like a lot. And I was just like, I just want to get in my bathtub. I have one of those detachable like shower heads in my bathtub. And so my husband was able to like run it over my back. And then when the water got too cold, I just unplugged the water, like the bath, and then would like plug it again. So my husband just basically kept like continuous hot water over me during contractions. And it was amazing. I needed it so badly. I was in the bathtub for like 3.5 hours, and I labored hard, like transitioned the whole time. That was honestly where my husband and I got the most connected, where I like called out to the Lord the most, like needed him so badly in that moment. And I had to completely surrender. Like that was hard. And then we hit like, I think I labored in there from like 11 to 3 or something like that. And then around 3, I was like, a little before 3, it might've been like 2. I was like, I need to get out, because I was just dying in there. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And everyone kept being like, are you pushy? Are you pushy? And I started lying. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling pushy. And I was like, I was never feeling pushy. With him, I never felt pushy, and I thought that was so weird. And I just was like, this is taking so long. Like, this is so hard. And then once I hit that point, I was like, intuitively, I knew. I was like, he's got to come out soon. Like, I just like had this feeling. Got out of the bath, went to the bathroom, had really strong contractions on the toilet for like 15 minutes, made it to the bed. My midwife was like, you need an IV. So I got a saline IV. And while I did that, I labored on the bed for like 30 minutes, pushing on my own, trying hard to like figure out how to push. Pushing was not fun for me. I hated pushing. So for those of you who say pushing is like relieving, it was never relieving for me. Obviously he was breached, so maybe that was like the reason why. But finally I was like, I need to push. Like, we just need to get this kid out. So I pushed the entire time, squatting or standing at the edge of the bed. That was my favorite way to push. And I did tug of war the whole time. So my whole body is still so sore. Like doing tug of war, pulling with all of my might while squatting. Oh my word. But honestly, God knew, because that was the only way this kid was going to come out. Because about an hour and a half into pushing, my midwife was asked to feel. She felt, and she was like, would you like to feel? And I was like, sure. So I felt, and I felt like a little ball like this. And I was like, that's super weird. I was like, is my kid gonna come out with like a tumor on their head? Is what I thought. It's literally what I thought. And my midwife was like, so he's breech. She said that to me. She said really calmly. And I was like, I was not scared in that moment, because my midwife's trained in breech, but my husband freaked out. My mom freaked out. And she's like, you can do this. You can do this. You can do this. So then I pushed for another 30 minutes, knowing that he was breech. And then she's like, apparently breech babies have to come out a specific way. And so she was like, he's not in the position. It was butt first. So what I felt, that little ball, yeah, that was a scrotum. And so I literally was like, was that a scrotum? And she was like, yes. So we knew the gender of this child before he actually entered the world, which was hilarious. But I need to hurry it up, because I only have 1 minute left. But essentially, push. My midwife was like, he's not in the right position. We need to call EMS. And I said, can I push for one more round of contractions? And she said, yeah. She's like, you're not going to hurt. She's like, I just don't know if you're going to be able to do it. Push with all of my might, and he was out within 3 minutes of her saying she needed to call EMS. I truly think like the Lord knew I needed to hear those words, because I needed to muster up every ounce of energy. Like, I wasn't even yelling at that point. I was just like holding my breath, which I didn't do, but like you should do, but like just literally flung him out. I felt booty, leg, chest, head dangled for a couple seconds, and then he popped on out. So that is my birth story. Surprise breech. He's good. He's here. Praise the Lord. I never want to do a breech birth ever again, but it is possible, and it was so empowering, and it was like the best birth ever.
Okay, you guys. I don't know why I start every video off with okay, you guys, but just deal with it, whatever. This is gonna be a story time about how my doctor, my surgeon, removed the wrong thing. So I'm going to try and make this as short as I can, but it is pretty eventful, so it might be a long video. So, yeah. Okay, so this scar on my neck, you can barely see it now. What happened was my lymph node ended up swelling and getting really hard really fast. That's what she said. Sorry. So I was like concerned about it, obviously. So I go to my primary care doctor and he's like, yeah, this is concerning. Like, it can be a sign of lymphoma. He refers me to an ENT who's going to do the surgery. So I see this first ENT and he agrees. He's like, yes, this is concerning. Let's schedule you for surgery as soon as possible. So we get the surgery scheduled, you know, whatever. Day of surgery comes, and most of you probably know this, but like when you get surgery, they make you write down your understanding of what they're doing during the surgery. So I write down lymph node removal because that's what was supposed to happen. And the surgeon comes in, the ENT surgeon comes in, and in black Sharpie circles my lymph node exactly where he should have. Like, I was like, okay, yes, this is, yeah, that's what you're supposed to take out, right? So after surgery, I never got test results, never got a pathology report, which I thought was weird. But I was like, maybe it's just taking a while. But like, I had a follow-up with my primary care doctor 2 weeks after the surgery, and he goes, okay, let's see the scar. So I go like this and like show him my scar, and he's like, oh yeah, okay, the scar looks really, really good, but what did he take out? And I, like, all the blood just rushed, like, dropped from my face. And I was like, sir, excuse me, what do you mean, what did they take out? And he goes, your lymph node is still there. He's like, I can see it and I can feel it. And I was like, oh my God. And I guess I hadn't been paying attention or like going like this in the mirror and looking because my neck was swollen and bruised from surgery, so I didn't even really think to do that because it should have been done, right? So I end up making another appointment with this doctor who did my surgery, and I straight up called him out. I said, what did you remove? My lymph node is still right here. Like, genuinely, what did you remove? And he goes, oh, so when we got in there, I found a tumor on your salivary gland, and it was like a complicated tumor that was, long story short, like he had to take out my salivary gland and the tumor. And I was like, okay, like, great. Like, I could see that happening if he also took out the lymph node. But I was like, my lymph node's still there. And he was like, yeah, like, I just thought the tumor on the salivary gland was more concerning. And I was like, okay, whatever. I don't trust this guy at all, so I'm just like, okay, I'm done with you, right? So my primary care doctor refers me to another ENT surgeon, and this guy is great. Honestly, he was like one of the best surgeons I've ever met. He was so smart, I trusted him. He ended up doing a septoplasty because my septum was really deviated, so he did a septoplasty and removed my lymph node, the right thing this time. I also don't ever recommend getting nose surgery and neck surgery at the same time. It was really, really awful. Anyway, he ends up taking out the right thing. Tests it, sends it off to pathology. It's not lymphoma. It came back benign. Like, my lymph node was just crazy, like acting up. I don't know. So then my family, my parents, were like, what do we do about this? Because the first surgeon, I'm not gonna say his name, I don't want to get in trouble, he should not have his medical license if he does not do what the surgery was scheduled for. So we ended up calling his doctor's office, and like, we were like, we like are going to like file a lawsuit against you. Like, we're ready to like take action against you because like this should not have happened. So then, long story short, he was like, I'm so sorry for the misunderstanding. Like, he's totally he knows he's in trouble. He knows he's fucked. he's like, I'm so sorry this happened, like, I should have explained better, like, whatever. And he's like, you know what, I'll cover the cost of the first surgery and the second surgery. And we're like, okay, like, that's great. We weren't really concerned about that. But he ended up paying for both of those. And that was great, cool, whatever. But, anyway, like, it kind of just ended like that. Like, we definitely should have taken more action against him. Like, I really want to say his name and, like, don't go to him. His first name is Anthony, I'll say that. But yeah, no, we should have, like, filed a lawsuit and, like, taken further action, but it's so much work. We looked into it, and it's like, and they have such good, like, malpractice insurance and whatever, so we just kind of, like, left it at that. But yeah, that is the story, put very shortly. But yeah, make sure you trust your surgeon before you get surgery, because now that I think back, even the first appointment with this guy, I was kind of, like, iffy. So yeah, trust your gut. I have one more thing to say. During the first surgery, the surgeon that fucked up, he ended up severing a lot of my nerves. This is what the second doctor told me. He ended up severing a lot of nerves along here and, like, down here. So I'm still numb from here, like, all the way down to here. So that's also, like, another downside of this, as if there weren't enough. But yeah, that's it.
I got arrested when I was 15. Let me tell you the story. So basically, I was dating this guy that was a year older than me. Let's say his name was Milo. Me and Milo decided to go to Chick-fil-A because we were really hungry. We're having a really good time, but then we're like, you know what? I'm bored. Let's just go to In-N-Out. I get back into his car, and then I see, like, a fake pew-pew in the back of his car. And I'm like, oh my God, why do you have this here? Haha. And he's like, oh yeah, me and my friends, we're just, like, joking around after school. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Joking around, I'm like, choo. And then I put it back in the back seat. We go back to In-N-Out. We don't see anybody there, and we get back into the car. And then we suddenly see this cop car pulling into the parking lot where we were at. And we were like, I wonder what's going on. We were ready to leave, but then we see another cop car pull up. And we're like, this must be something really serious that's going on at In-N-Out. I start kind of freaking out, so I'm like, let's just go. And he's like, no, I don't want to leave. I just don't want him to think that we're running away. So then we stay, and then tell me why we see another 3 cop cars pull up, and they're all blocking the entrance to the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is about us. I got arrested when I was 15. Let me tell you the story. And he's like, no, they're probably here looking for someone inside. And then right when he says that, the cop talks over the intercom, and he's like, driver, get out of the passenger seat. Put your hands up and walk backwards to listen to my voice. They handcuff him. And I'm like, fuck, like, I'm dating a criminal. I'm thinking that I'm dating, like, a freaking drug dealer. After they handcuff him, they're like, passenger, get out of the seat, put your hands in the air, and walk to the sound of my voice. And they handcuff me. Like, I nearly had a fucking panic attack, and they put me into the cop car. And this rude-ass cop is like, I'm talking to you in a very normal tone, and the way that you're stuttering is making me really suspicious. So, like, we're not gonna act like I'm fucking handcuffed in the back of your car. Mind you, we had asked them why we were getting handcuffed. They wouldn't tell us, which I low-key think it's a little bit illegal. I don't know, guys, let me know. Anyways, they look through my boyfriend's car, and they quite literally do not find anything. Until suddenly, I see them pulling out the toy pew-pew. And I could see one of the cops pulls it out, and he's like, and then the other one's like they knew they fucked up. They kept searching the car. They couldn't find anything else, so they eventually released us. Their whole vibe completely shifts. Like, they were being super duper aggressive, super duper mean, but once they found out that it was a fake pew-pew, they're like trying to, like, soften the mood. Yeah, they take our handcuffs off. Anyways, what ended up happening was that when I was at Chick-fil-A, when I was lifting up the pew-pew towards my boyfriend and towards the place, the lady that was sitting in the car next to us thought it was a real pew-pew. Yeah. And she called the cops on us,
And yeah, after that, he had to drive back home with cops behind him. I had to have my parents pick me up. So yeah, this is the final look.
Reasons why me and my mom don't have a good relationship. Also, speed, get ready with me because I'm supposed to be out of the house right now. So for starters, me and my mom don't have a very good relationship. We never really have, like, we've kind of always just been, I don't really even know how to explain it. A little bit of a backstory, my mom does not have custody of me. She put me up for adoption and I was adopted by my grandparents, so her parents. And so for off the bat, like, we just don't have a good relationship. Like, we've never seen eye to eye on things, and like, her parents are my parents. But it's gotten really, really bad when she decided to come back and live with us. She started to like try to parent me. I've never been very easy to, I don't know, don't leave my life and then expect to come back in like everything's fine. Like, I let everybody know that that's how I feel. There is no changing that. My mom just can't seem to get it in her head that I don't really care for a relationship with her. Just like she didn't care to have a relationship with me when she gave me and my 3 sisters up for adoption. First reasons is that, but then another reason is because anytime she has a new boyfriend, I'm not her child. I'm her niece. When she wants to be home and live with us, I'm her daughter that she wants full control over. And it's super annoying to try to negotiate things with her. It's like talking to a brick wall, like literally. I'm at this point in my life also where I don't hate my mom. I just simply don't see eye to eye with some of the things that she says and does, but I don't hate her because I don't have hatred for anybody in my life. And that just has a lot to do with like my peace. Like, I want to keep my peace. I'm trying to protect myself. Like, yeah. Another reason is she will try to buy me things to try to buy back my love. If you've already lost me as a person in your life, don't try to win me back with buying me things. Like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate how hard you're trying to work, but I would much rather sit down and have an open heart to heart instead of you getting me new shorts, new makeup, new clothes, my homecoming dress. Like, I'm sorry. Another reason is it's literally her way or the highway with things. Like, if she doesn't want it done, it's not gonna get done. If she doesn't want to talk, we're not gonna talk. When literally most of our issues could all be resolved if we all just sat down and had a really long conversation as a family. I don't think I can ever be close to a parent who can just get up and leave their kids. Like, I'm sorry. Maybe one day in the far, far future, I could try to have a relationship with my mother, but maybe I won't. And I'm living with that's okay. Anyway, thank you guys so much for getting ready with me, and thanks for having a little chit chat. See you next time.
I gave birth in my car while my husband was driving and delivered my baby myself. This was about 6 months ago, and I, of course, still think about it every single day and probably will for the rest of my life. So I wanted to share my birth story because I could talk about this forever. Basically, this is my second child, and I was 3 days past my due date. So to set the scene. So it is 2 in the morning. I wake up to go to the bathroom, as one does when they are 9 months pregnant. And I've been having Braxton Hicks my whole 3rd trimester, so I was having that, but that was nothing new. And then when I laid back down, all of a sudden I felt this huge jolt, which I had never felt in either of my pregnancies. And I was like, that's weird. This might be the start of something. I'm 3 days past my due date, but let me kind of see what's happening before I wake up my husband, call the moms, make it a whole thing. So I sat on my birth ball and timed my contractions. They started coming pretty close together. So I'm like, okay, this is it. Let me wake my husband. This is all over the course of like 20 minutes. So I did not wait a long time at all. So I wake up my husband, we call our moms because his mom has to come and watch our toddler. And so we are getting our stuff together. His mom gets there, we get in the car. Again, I'm skipping over a lot of major details here, but we put the hospital in the GPS because we don't, drive there every day, and it says 14 minutes. So that's how close we are, 14 minutes. We are not far from the hospital.
Now, leading up to this point, my contractions had gotten really strong. Like, I am at the point where I am like, primal noises are coming out of my body, and my contractions are very close together, which happen pretty immediately. Like, contractions are like a wave. Like, the pain goes up and up and up, and then you hit the top, and then it starts to come down, and before it goes up again. My down is like not down. Like, as soon as I get down, I am going back up, and I am like, primal groaning, yelling is like the best way I can think to describe it. But it is loud, and I did that outside the car in my neighborhood, so I'm like, people are probably gonna think I'm like in distress. So we start driving, and this whole time I'm like not saying anything out, like any words to my husband, because I am just groaning and yelling and breathing is basically all I can manage. And then all of a sudden I have the strongest contraction yet, and I realize I think I'm gonna have to push. Like, I don't think that this is something I might be in control of, but that one almost felt like I was gonna have to push. So I don't know what's gonna happen on this next one. So at that point I realized logistically my pants are on. If I have to push this baby out, where is he going to go? Like, I need to get my pants off, and I'm buckled into the passenger car seat. So I unbuckle, and I'm wearing leggings, of course. So, and I have a 9-month pregnant belly. So I pull my leggings down to my knees. I cannot get them past my knees because of my belly and sitting in the car. So that is where my pants remain for this whole birth, is at my knees. Tight leggings at my knees. Can barely get my legs apart. If that, paints a picture. So I pull them down. My husband clocks this, and, I think is like, that's not a good sign. And then the next contraction comes, and it's called the fetal ejection reflex, is when your body pushes on its own, despite you having any control over it. And that is what happened to me. So I am sitting in the passenger seat, my body starts pushing on its own, which was kind of a crazy feeling, because that did not happen with my first. I had an epidural. And so my body starts pushing on its own, and I put my hands down there, because, like, I literally feel myself giving birth. And this is the first time I utter any words this whole car ride. I say out loud, I think something's wrong, which I'm sure scared the crap out of my husband, because he doesn't know what's happening. But what I felt did not feel like a baby's head, which is obviously what it should be. And yeah, babies are slimy, they're covered in stuff when they're born, but like, this felt smooth. This felt like an organ. And I'm no doctor, but I'm like, is it possible to like push out your uterus? Like, is something else coming out of me? I don't know what is happening, but that freaked me out. And so at this point, all that's going through my mind is, I need to get this baby out on this next push, because I don't know what is going on. And like, yeah, naturally that's what should happen, but I think sometimes people like might have to push a couple times. Like, I don't know. I'm by myself. I mean, my husband's there, but I'm delivering this baby by myself. Like, there was no medical staff. So I'm like, I need to get this baby out on the next push. And so the next contraction starts coming, which again, they're not far apart, so it happens pretty quickly, and my body starts pushing again. And honestly, had I been in the hospital in a setting where I was able, I probably could have just let my body push, and I think he would have come out. But again, I'm like, I need to get this baby out. So I have one big good J breath, if you're familiar with birthing techniques. One big J breath, and once the shoulders are the widest part, so once the shoulders come out, the whole rest of the body kind of just like flops out. And so I get his shoulders out, he comes out, I pull him up onto my chest, and remember, this whole time all I have said to my husband is, I think something's wrong. He has no idea I am delivering this baby. And so now he looks over, and the baby is there. The baby is here, earthside, in the car on my chest. And he is wiggling around and like kind of making some noises, but not crying. And I feel like anyone who's like seen television, you see like, oh, the doctor, hits the baby and they cry, and then everyone gets excited because it means the baby's breathing. So like, I kind of know that that's what needs to happen. And so I start like hitting him on the back, and I'm like, cry baby, cry, breathe. And at this point also, I forget when exactly we were stuck at a red light, but we were stuck at a red light. Like, we had to make a left across it's like a 4-lane traffic light, and luckily it's 3 a.m. so there's no cars on the road. I'm like, run it. I think this is like either between the head coming out and the whole baby coming out, or right after the whole baby came out, but I'm like, run the light. And so we are almost at the hospital, and I'm like hitting the baby on the back for a couple seconds, and he lets out big beautiful cry, and I think we both just breathed like a huge sigh of relief. I think at that point I just knew that everything was going to be okay. Like, obviously we still need to get to the hospital and get this baby checked out, but I'm like, he is breathing, he is here, I did it, we're gonna be okay. Oh, and also I forgot, back to the part about feel like when his head came out, feeling something like smooth. I think that he was partially born in the sac still, because my water did not break prior to me pushing him out. That is called, I've now learned, encall. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but when the baby's born in the sac, it's called encall. Thank God he was not fully born in the sac. I don't know what I would have done with that alone in a car, like delivering him myself. So thank God. I remember when I pushed the rest of him out, there was like a big burst of liquid. So I'm fairly certain that when I pushed his head out, he was still in the sac, and that it broke when I pushed his whole body out. So now he's crying, we're pulling into the hospital, we're like, thank God, we are here, baby's breathing. I'm looking at the baby, and my husband goes, which direction is it? Because there's like, it's a big hospital. And I'm like, I don't know, follow the signage, say like women and children or something. And he goes, I can't see. And this is the first time I'm looking up since the baby has come out. And by the way, I should say it's February, it's 20 degrees outside. So obviously we had the heat blasting in the car, and the heat from the birth made the whole windshield fog up. So you cannot see a thing. I'm like, I don't care, literally just get to any door, we'll find a doctor. Like, just get to a door. Luckily he finds the right way. We get to maternity, and he runs in and says, my wife had the baby in the car. Like 5 medical staff come running out. The first one to make it to the car, starts doing the suctioning and everything that you're supposed to do when a baby is first born. They're, kind of all probably a little freaked out, because like they don't know what happened up until this point. And the woman who was there doing all the main stuff, she's about to cut the umbilical cord, and she like pauses and turns to my husband and is like, do you want to cut it? We're both like, just do it, just cut it. Do what you gotta do. So she cuts it, they whisk the baby away. They had a stretcher waiting for me at that point. So then like the baby was the emergency with me, and I'm like, okay, let's get your pants up, let's get you on the stretcher. And then they had to do the placenta delivery and stitches and everything in triage, which sucked. But baby was okay. I can talk more about that in a different video because I'm coming up on time again. But yeah, it was really crazy, but everyone's happy and healthy, and honestly, highly recommend. Much better than my first birth, even though it was in a hospital and I had an epidural.
Okay, we're gonna do another get ready with me while I tell you guys about the craziest friendship falling out that I ever had. So, as any other crazy story I have goes, I'm in high school. It's the summer before my senior year, and I'm about to turn 17, right? I had this insane best friend at the time, and like, before I met her, I was already pretty bad, like doing stuff I wasn't supposed to, but after I met her, it was downhill. Like, to put it in perspective, I have the most chill dad ever and stepmom, and this was like the one friend that they did not approve of me hanging out with, but I'd still hang out with her anyways. So it's right before my senior year. I'm 16, freshly off probation. We're like, okay, let's get lit. Like, she had just graduated. She's a freshman in college now. So what do? We get, I don't really know how else to like say that without getting flagged on TikTok, but it was a McLovin moment for sure. So these come in, I'm not really using mine other than at the gas station because I'm a pussy, and she's using hers all over the damn town though, going out, blah, blah. Like I said, she's a freshman in college at this point. I'm still a senior in high school. And like I said, this girl was just, I don't even know the words to describe it. So within the first like 2 months, she loses both of hers, and she's like, well, I need yours. Like, you have to let me use yours because I don't have mine, and I'm in college, so I'm like going out and blah, 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 blah. And I have 2 copies, so I'm like, yeah, girl, I got you. So she's using mine, and then like over time, it kind of gets to the point where I'm like, well, I want to start going out. And she's like, well, you can't come out with me because I'm you on my, and so like, you just can't. I'm like, okay, what the hell? And that kind of bothered me, but I kind of just let it like, build up over the course of the year and didn't really say anything. So flash forward to spring break my senior year. We're a bunch of damn hooligans. Of course, we're going to PCB unsupervised. Don't know who let that happen or how I managed to swing that on a Chili's to go paycheck, but you know, we did it. So obviously I'm like, yo, I need that second copy back because I'm probably gonna get one of mine taken while I'm down there, whatever. She just is so resistant to giving me back. Well, I need it for one more day. Well, blah, blah, blah. Well, I can't give it back to you today because yada, yada, yada. Like, she's really just making excuses out the ass. So then finally I get fed up and I just basically text her and go off on her. And I'm like, give me my shit back. Like, what the fuck, blah, blah, blah. And then she tried to pull the, well, no, because you're being crazy. So I don't want to see you because I don't know what you're going to do to me. And maybe if you weren't crazy, then you could get your stuff back. Well, obviously not, bitch, because you would have given it back to me the first fucking time I asked. Yeah, so I'm working the Chili's to go one day, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to beat this bitch up. And I'm, like, going off on her on text message or whatever, and I'm like, have my shit. I'm coming tomorrow. Give me my clothes, give me my shoes, give me my everything. I'm coming to get it. We lived in the same neighborhood, by the way. So it's a Wednesday. We have a late start, so I'm going to go there before school this day. And this was, like, the one time in my high school career that I decided to be respectful. I had all of her shit washed, folded in a bag for her, whatever. So, you know, I mosey on 2 minutes up the road to her house. When I get there, I see that all of my clothes are scattered in her front yard and had been rained on. So I'm like, oh, okay, this bitch wants to go. I tried to give her an opportunity. I really tried, and she did not take it. So I was already livid, and now I'm fucking fuming. Like I said, it's pretty early in the morning. I had went before school, and so I see her grandpa walk out of the house, and I walk up to him. I'm like, hey, for the purpose of the story, we'll call her Slender Man because that's what she fucking built like. And I'm like, hey, is Slender Man inside? And he's like, oh yeah, let me go get her for you. Mind you, I'm in the front yard. I can see all these hoes through the window fucking eating breakfast, little family, happy time, and they gonna be happy for long, bitch. Oh, I was so mad. Like, I'm actually getting heated retelling this story. So I'm standing outside. I'm waiting. I'm looking at them through the windows, and then I realize this bitch ain't coming out. So I start acting a damn fool. I'm banging on the windows. I'm banging on the door. I'm like, Slender Man, open the fucking door. I know you got my shit in there. Just come give me my shit back, and I'll fucking leave. Just on one at 8:30 in the morning on a ripe Wednesday. So finally, after I'm like standing around banging on her door, whatever, I'm in the... Okay, this is not funny. I'm in her Ring camera, and I'm so mad. I'm like, fuck her government name. I'm like, fuck you, fuck your family, fuck you, Slender Man. I fucking hate you. Like, I'm coming for your shit. Oh my God, it was bad. Like I said, this hoe was hiding up in the house the entire time, which is crazy because the amount of shit that she talked about me on TikTok and her other social medias after this. Why would you not just come outside? We could have handled it right then and there, but you want to be a fucking keyboard warrior? Okay. So finally, she gets her older sister to come to the door. And she's like, you need to leave. You're being crazy and like, what are you going to do? Call the cops and say that she has your... And I'm like, well, shit, you got me there because obviously I can't fucking do that. So I end up leaving, and I am so mad at this point. I literally posted on my main story. I was like, if Slender Man ever tries to tell y'all that she's on shit, just know that she's fucking not, because I just sat outside of her house banging on the doors and the windows for 30 minutes, and that bitch wouldn't come outside. Oh. Once again, what the fuck were we doing? I really should have just charged that one to the game, but I just could not let it go. So like I said, she's like talking all this crazy shit about me on social media, like just fucking like I'm getting TikTok sent, Snapchat stories sent, it's spam account post sent like every fucking day that she's talking shit about me. Like outing my business on social media about like my family life and my mental health and like all this other shit. Which like, yeah, I was fucked up in the head, but bitch, that ain't for you to tell, the fuck. So flash forward to post-graduation, it's like June. Me and my best friend Lacey were at the beach with my family when we see a TikTok pop up on our For You page. I can't remember if it was her For You page or somebody sent it to her, but anyways, the TikTok literally said, hope you had fun being psycho because the cops are having a great time looking at your right now. That bitch had turned my shit into the cops, which also was insane because she was literally using it for that entire year. Used it, had gotten a new one, and I knew that because we had a mutual friend, told me that she got a new one, and as soon as she got her new one in, she went and turned my shit into the cops. Are you fucking serious? Also, she thought she fucking ate with that, but everybody in the comments of that TikTok were like, oh, you fucking snitch, like, fuck you, bitch, why would you, like, all these random ass people writing for me. And also, I don't know how the fuck she talked to the cops with a straight face, because this bitch was doing hard rugs more than anybody I knew. Like, you zooted and booted off the ecstasy going into the police station. Are we fucking for real? So my friend and I, we're just lit at the beach. Like, we don't really have a care in the world because they're not going to do anything about it. Like, for them to ever get me with anything, they would have had to go through lengths to prove that I had that made. Mind you, I live in a college SEC town. Like, they don't give a fuck about that shit. Well, I mean, they do, but they ain't really doing anything about it. So after that, I pretty much never saw her again until one time we're at our local dive bar, my favorite place, and me and Lacey are in there, and we're in the bathroom, and this bitch is taking forever. And who do I hear behind that damn bathroom stall? No other than that bitch. And you wanna know how I knew it was her? Because she was talking about how many guys she cracked that week. She was going worse than anybody I knew. I mean, the way she was giving it up, she should have been getting paid for it. Like, if you made $10 every time you dick suck, I ain't gonna lie, you would have been up. But anyways, so we figure out it's her and we're banging on the door. We're like, bitch, get out the stall. Like, we gotta pee. They're so drunk. Her friend ends up opening the door and I end up walking in and I'm like, hey, Slender Man. And she's like putting her pants on. I sit my ass on the toilet and start pissing right in front of her. I don't give a fuck. And she's like, you're so weird, baby. You're so weird. Like, just, I don't know how she managed to attain a Valley Girl accent living in East Tennessee, but not here nor there. So the bitch leaves, gets a drink from the bar, throws her entire drink under the stall and misses me because I'm in the handicap stall. She throws it at the front. I'm sitting in the back. You stupid bitch. And then she must have ran away because I never saw her again after that. And I don't know what happened to her because we live in the same town and I don't see her anymore. Maybe she did leave after a year of embarrassment trying to still talk to all of my friends like at the bars and shit. And people would be like, bitch, you are weird. So obviously I guess it all settled down. But I mean, I guess long story short, don't ever give your friends your shit if you want to get it back.
Crazy wedding story. And I can't believe I haven't told this one yet because this goes down as probably the craziest wedding crasher in the history and not for the reason that you're thinking. Okay, so let me kind of set the scene for you. So this was a wedding that was probably right around 200 guests. So a pretty big wedding. And it was held at a golf course. So it was also a public golf course. So a lot of people were there throughout the day. And I got there a few hours before the wedding. So it was kind of the time that the golf club was closing down. So like public was leaving, the golf club staff was starting to set up, all of that kind of stuff. But the bride and groom and wedding party and guests were not there yet. So I see this guy come in who looks like he's part of like the clubhouse kind of catering staff. He looked to be wearing the same thing as them, like had like a front apron on. Again, there's a lot of people coming in and out to where like I saw him, but didn't notice him, if that makes sense. But I kind of like saw him come in and didn't see him since then. So everyone starts to show up. Wedding ceremony gets started. And during the wedding ceremony is when I noticed this guy again. And I happened to notice him going towards one of these other bathrooms. Again, it was a big like golf club house, so there were multiple bathrooms, but this one was in this like lobby area that at the time was kind of like made sense for him to be going to because it was off and away from where the ceremony was taking place. So I saw him go into the bathroom, but I didn't really see him come out. Again, a lot of things going on, right about to move into cocktail hour. And so we move into cocktail hour, and where cocktail hour was being held was in this kind of banquet room next to where the ceremony was and a little bit closer towards these bathrooms. And this bride and groom were having past appetizers, buffet style appetizers. So now it's like all of the guests are moving around. Some people are going to the restroom, bars, different staff is all kind of moving around. Move on through cocktail hour. We move on through wedding party introductions. We get all the way into like a seated dinner. And now it's kind of a break time. I happen to go to try and use the restroom myself. And I go towards these same restrooms kind of in this lobby area. But again, multiple guests have been using it. We're like, now the wedding is kind of taking place in the whole clubhouse. As I go to walk in there, I notice the bride kind of walking pretty fast and looking frantic and walking towards this lobby area, kind of like looking like she's looking for something or someone. But almost as soon as I notice her coming in to this like lobby area, she pretty quickly leaves and heads back to sit down for dinner. So I don't think much of it. I needed to use the restroom myself. So I go on about and do my business. But as I'm coming out of the bathroom, again, you come out into like this lobby area, I notice that the bride is kind of like tucked away in this corner, talking to what I swore was that same guy from earlier. Now, I say I swore because he was in different clothing. Instead of, like I said, that what I thought to be like the catering staff outfit or whatever, he was in like a nice shirt and tie and slacks, like what a wedding guest would wear. And he almost looked a little more like cleaned shaven. Like it's not like he had a beard before and it was gone, but just looked like he kind of washed up, if that makes sense. But they're kind of like tucked away in the corner, and she looks like frantic, kind of talking to him. And I just hear her saying like, you've got to go. You can't be here right now. We'll talk later. I need you to go. I need you to go. She's kind of like looking around to see if anyone sees them talking to them. Again, I kind of noticed because I'm like, isn't that the same guy? She looks kind of frantic. So because she looked a little frantic, I kind of like walked a different way to just kind of looked like I happened to walk by them. And I was like, hey, is everything good? You all good? And she was like, yeah, we're fine. I need to get back to my seat. And as she's saying that, she's kind of like walking away. And I didn't really get a chance to get a better look at this guy. And again, it was a huge wedding, tons of staff, tons of people. I'm kind of like second guessing myself at this point. Like, maybe this is this guy. Maybe it's not this guy. Maybe he just looks like the guy. And as she's like heading back to her seat, this guy then looks like he's going to leave. Basically, they split ways and he kind of goes towards, there was another exit over there, and he goes towards there. And as I've said, in a wedding, I'm not going to get involved if it's not my business. So we go on and move on. And it's not about for another hour later. We've moved through dinner. We've even moved on through speeches. We're about to start like the dancing time. I think kind of just before like the special dances. So the first dance, those kinds of things. But there was a little bit of break, like in a transition from speeches into dances, that I go back as well. And I look back in the lobby and I see the bride and that guy talking again. And this time she definitely looks less frantic. They're still kind of tucked and hidden away. And I know now that it is at least the same guy that I saw when I was coming out of the bathroom. And now I'm more telling myself like, okay, I think this is the same guy. Now I'm getting a better look at him. But because she looked less worried and they kind of resolved itself last time, I was like, I'm not getting involved. She seems like she hasn't handled whoever this guy is. But they keep talking, and then I kind of notice the groom looking around, and I'm like, oh, maybe he's looking for her. And at that point, I'm like, maybe he'll figure it out. And just as I notice that, he does kind of look for her, and I'm not too far away. And I kind of like scoop myself over because I'm not doing anything at this point. And the groom then goes to look for her. So he goes into this lobby. The groom goes into this lobby and sees the bride and this other guy talking. And the groom looks at them and says, let's call this other guy Johnny. He goes, Johnny, what are you doing here? And I'm like, what? They know each other? The groom knows them? Like, who is this? Okay, so the groom just looked at both the bride and this other guy and says, Johnny, what are you doing here? Let's call the groom Jack. And she goes, oh, Jack, I actually invited Johnny and I didn't get a chance to tell you. I had just heard that he was in town. He had heard that we were getting married and I wanted to invite him to surprise you. And just as the bride is explaining this, one of the groomsmen comes out and obviously doesn't recognize this other Johnny guy and says like, hey, man, to the groom, is everything good? You guys okay out here? And the groom goes, yeah, I just was coming out here to look for, let's call the bride Sally. I was just coming out here to look for Sally, and she was out here with Johnny. And Johnny and I, funny enough, actually used to work together. But guess he was coming here as a surprise. And so right as the groomsman kind of goes to shake Johnny's hand, like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, Johnny kind of stops him and looks at the bride and says, Sally, why don't you also tell them why I'm really here? And the bride doesn't say anything. Johnny says, the real reason that I'm here is because I wanted to see Sally. And I guess the wedding's already gone through, but I couldn't let her go through with today without getting a chance to talk to her. And the truth is that Sally and I have been talking for probably about the last 6 months, and I'm sorry, man, but I'm in love with her, and we wanted to take things further. And Sally, the bride, interjects in and says, I can explain. No, that's not how it happened. That's not how it happened. And the groom just goes like stone cold. And I didn't know if the groom was going to punch this guy in the face, or the groomsman, who is also still there, was going to punch this guy in the face. Looks this bride in the face and says, Sally, is what he just said true? And she's crying and hysterical. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I can explain. I can explain, but kind of confirming that, yes, this is true. And the groom just stays stone cold, grabs his buddy, the groomsman, and walks away. And he walks over to his parents, the groom's parents, whispers something in their ear, goes up to the DJ booth, asks the DJ for the mic, gets on the mic and says, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Unfortunately, we're going to have to end this wedding early. I hope everyone gets home safe. We're going to end this night early. Thank you all for being here. And just walks out and leaves.
Sometimes I literally forget how insane my high school lore was. It wasn't like insane in the way of like I was abusing substances, but it was just like the stuff I was doing in high school. I just often forget that like that's who I was, because I'm like a chiller now. Like I don't do anything crazy. So it's like when I look back on my high school self, I'm just like, what was I thinking or doing? So here are a couple of my favorite high school lore moments. My freshman year, I was like really shy and I had braces and I was like really set on getting straight A's and like I cared what everyone thought of me. And I mean, like I feel like at the end of high school I still cared what everyone thought of me, but like I really cared my freshman year. And no one liked me, no one had a crush on me, and it was probably because I was chop shit and I had a bob, and I don't know why I was doing that. But our freshman year we had to run the mile, and I remember I've never been an athletic person. I was really scared. I was like, there's no way this is gonna be the one class I fail and it's gonna be fucking PE because I can't run a mile in 10 minutes or whatever it was. I think 10 minutes was an A, 15 was a B, and then so on and so forth every 5 minutes. Anyways, I was so set on getting an A, I pushed myself so hard that once I had finished the mile, I passed my teacher on the field who said, good job, that's an A, ran straight to the bathroom in the gym building and threw up everywhere. Anyways, my sophomore year, COVID, this is when I started like hitting the geek bar and like giving up because I didn't get to see any friends. That's the reason. You guys like my shirt? I decided to be alt during this time. I think everyone did, but I was like, I had like long stripy hand warmers and I was like burning my bras and shit. All right, we're almost to the good. Somewhere at the end of like COVID being social distancing and like I couldn't go to school, I came back to school and I decided, fuck it, I'm gonna be the one who throws all the parties. I don't know what came over me, but I think I realized that I had the house that was the farthest away from civilization, so therefore like when I threw parties they wouldn't get shut down by the cops. And my parents were so chill, and they were like, yeah, throw a party, because they knew I had no friends my freshman and sophomore year. So I'm like, fuck it, we're gonna throw massive functions at my house. And I was always really like, I was always so set on having a theme. Like people in high school hated having a theme at my high school. Like they did not want to have a theme. They wanted like, they just wanted to drink. And I would always say like, I'm gonna have this massive party, everyone's invited, but you have to dress on theme. And mostly guys would be like, fuck no, I'm not dressing on theme. And I would always say, this is fucked. I was like, if you show up to my house, you drive the 30 minutes away from our neighborhood, because I was actually out of the neighborhood of the school that I was going to, but I still went there. If you pull up 30 minutes away and you aren't dressed or can't explain your outfit to the theme, I'm charging you $20 on Venmo. At my parties, I love to play bouncer, so I would just stand at the front door and I would just see all these people from other high schools that I did not know, and I would charge them so much money. And it wasn't like, oh, $5 to get in. Like, I would be charging these people, like, if I didn't know them and they were just like men I didn't know, I'd be like $30 each. Or I can do 50 for 2. And I was heckling the fuck out of these guys. I remember one night I was so fucking plastered, I wake up the next morning, $200 in my Venmo account. I was working that door, holy. Somewhere between my junior and senior year, I decided I was gonna run for senior class president. No reason, just wanted to. The, like, ASB tryhards, like the student government tryhards, were really mad that I wanted to be a senior class president because they'd all been working for this, like, their entire high school careers, and I just kind of came in and started making dumbass posters and, like handing out fortune cookies to random people. Anyways, I literally won, I don't know how, and everyone was really pressed about it in student government, and I showed up late every day to student government. Like, I take full accountability for that, but I did show up. I was just really late. It was my senior year, and I didn't want to go to an 8 a.m. class, like, God forbid. Anyways, hoes mad, and they got me impeached from my high school presidency. Never, ever, ever was it that deep. I'm still mad about it to this day. My parents were mad as fuck about this, because they were like, she's gonna get in so many good colleges, because she's... But mind you, I had failed, like, so many classes that my grades were not looking good. But they were like, we need to talk to the principal about this. So we go and we have a meeting with the principal and the head of the ASB lady, and she was like, there's nothing I can do about it. I already handed the presidency off to this other girl. She already put it on her college apps. Girl, you've been president for 1 day. You can't put that on your college apps yet. And never mind. God bless her. Anyways, yeah, so I got impeached from my high school presidency, and then I decided to throw a party. My friends got me a shirt that said I was impeached with a not very flattering or legal picture of me on it, and it was awesome. I wonder if I can find a picture. Then for my 18th birthday party, for context, there was this guy who had a big fat crush on me, and I did not like him at all, and I can get more in depth because it's a funny fucking story. But he pulls up to my birthday party uninvited because we had beef because he was mad that he couldn't get his cookie, and I was like, I'll let it slide. Peace and love tonight. Someone comes up to me, they're like, someone clogged your toilet. And I was like, what are you talking about? Someone clogged my toilet. Toilet full to the brim of all bodily fluids, every type. Disgusting. We later come to find out the guy that was mad he couldn't get this cookie took a whole bottle of laxatives with all his friends just to come to my birthday party and clog my toilet. And when I think about it, I'm like, you're such a sick freak to put yourself through that. Never in any situation would I ever be taking a full bottle of laxatives. Like, and definitely not making my friends take the laxatives with me. Like, they must be, like, locked in, down bad friends. Like, I hope y'all are still friends to this day, because I would never do that for one of my friends, and I'm so sorry. I would not take a bottle of laxatives for one of my friends ever. That same night, me and 2 guys who I didn't know, one of them ended up being my second boyfriend for a very long time, and lots of love to him, but we all broke my porch swing. It just came out of the ceiling and fell on top of us. It was horrible. Yeah.
So this is going to be a story time of a long time ago when I worked at a bank. There was one day I was a teller. I get a phone call, you know, hello, thank you for calling blah 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 bank. This is Savannah. What can I do for you? And it's this lady, and she said, hey, my husband made some disputes on some charges on our account, and I was calling to, you know, follow up about it. So I'm like, okay, give me a moment, let me pull up your account. I pull it up, I see the disputes, they had gotten denied. So they weren't gonna follow through with, like, giving them the money back from the charges that they were disputing against. And she was like, could you tell me why they got denied? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let me look into it. And I'm looking into it, and it says on there that, like, no fault was found, like, the charges were rightfully made, so they weren't gonna give them the money back. They were gonna keep the charges on there. And she's like, could you, like, look into that for me again? Because, like, my husband went on this business trip to Las Vegas, and he said that the restaurant that he went to, like, charged him more than they were supposed to, and they, like, stole his card information. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll give you a call back, let me look into it. So I hang up the phone with her, start looking more into it, like, pulling up the merchant receipts from the charges, and, you know, all of that good stuff. And I see that, like, the restaurant, first of all, the restaurant in Las Vegas that he went to was called, like, Sapphire or something like that. Red flag number 1. Red flag number 1 was the business trip in Las Vegas. This is red flag number 2 at this point, that the restaurant is named Sapphire. So I'm looking into it. I see the receipts. They have his signature on them. Turns out this was a club for women to dance at, that also has like a bar and they sell food. So restaurant and so dinner and a show. And I'm looking at them, and the receipts that they have sent us, like the merchant has sent to us to verify that these charges were rightfully made, have not only his signature, but because he bought dance dollars, because he paid in card, and then they like gave him like tickets to give to these ladies. And he also booked a private room to see these ladies. That they had not only his signature but his fingerprints and also a picture of his ID. So then I emailed the merchant and I'm like, hey, I just wanted to gather some more information about these charges. Could you send me over the rest of the information that you have? So they also send over literally his picture, because there's video cameras in there. They have his picture on like the email. They sent it to me, like the closed caption footage of him there. And so then at that point I'm like, oh shit, I have to call her back and explain this to her, because he had his wife call up there to ask about these charges that he disputed, that he's lying to her about, and he's trying to lie to us about. So then I have to call her back and be like, ma'am, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but the club that he went to has sent over multiple receipts, his signature, his fingerprints, a picture of his ID, and also photos of him screenshotted from the security footage. So we're not going to be able to dispute those charges for you. They are going to go through. And when I tell you, it was like silence, like radio silence on the phone for a second. Like you could hear a pin drop. And then she goes, oh, okay, thanks, have a great day, and hangs up. The calmness in her voice was probably the scariest thing, one of the scariest things that I ever experienced while working there. And I was just like, oh dear God. Like, first of all, how are you went on a business trip with your coworkers or whatever, you went to this club, and then you lied to your wife about it and tried to dispute the charges after you had spent, it was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Like it was like a couple $100 for the dinner, and then also like he spent like $500 or $600 in dance dollars, and then it also had the private room fee on there too. He was buying bottles. And they had everything. They had all of your information, sir. You can't dispute that. You were definitely there. Like, oh my God. I think about it from time to time, and I'm just like, how the fuck did he think this was gonna go? He thought he was just gonna be like, oh yeah, I didn't do that, and we were gonna give you your money back? I don't work there anymore. But damn, the audacity, and then to have your wife call and ask about it? That's some crazy shit. So I saw this guy get his ass beat in a bank drive-thru. I worked there. I worked at the bank, and I watched it through the window to the drive-thru. Let me set the scene for you. It's like a busy Friday. Everybody's coming in to cash their checks after work. We had this one really, really nice, very sweet teller. Like, she was very meek, very mild, very nice, very quiet. And this guy comes through in this busted ass pickup truck to cash his paycheck, except it was like a personally handwritten check. It wasn't like a payroll check. So there's so many other things that you have to go through, especially if the person who's cashing the check does not have an account at the bank. So she starts asking him for 2 forms of ID, explaining to him that there's a $5 fee if you don't have an account there. He starts freaking out, cussing at her. He's saying all kinds of nasty stuff to her, calls her a bitch and all this other stuff. She's just doing her job. Those are the policies and procedures for the bank, sir. She didn't like just do this because of you. And while that's happening, on the front line, one of our regulars came in. We're gonna call him Bill. Bill owned like a construction company or something like that, so he was in there very often, and we all liked him. He was really nice. At least all the girls liked him. He was a good looking guy. He'd flirt with all the girls, whatever. He'd bring stuff to us. He'd bring us lunch sometimes. He overhears this going on, and he's like, what the fuck is that guy's problem? I was like, I don't know, man. Like, he's been acting like this since he got here, and now he's upset because he needs 2 forms of ID, and he doesn't have 2 forms of ID. So then he's like, well, I'm gonna go out there and say something to him. I'm like, really? Are you sure? Like, do you think that's a good idea? Well, he goes out there, walks up to the driver's side of this guy's truck while he's sitting there in the drive-thru line waiting on the teller to get done with his stuff. And he starts talking to him. I can't hear what's going on, but I can see Bill walks up to the truck. The dude looks at him, he's like, what the fuck do you want? He starts being all nasty to Bill. Bad idea. Bad idea. I, like, turn on the camera to the drive-thru so I can hear what they're saying. He's like, hey, man, that's not cool. You don't need to be talking to women like that. You're going to have to call over there and apologize. He's like, I don't have to fucking do anything. What are you going to fucking do about it? Bad idea. Bill reaches in, punches this guy in the face. Dude goes down inside of his truck, starts trying to kick at Bill. Bill's reaching in there. He's wailing on this dude. And we're like, oh my God, like, what the fuck? Like, what do we do? What do we do? And Bill ends up walking away. He starts walking back around to the front. This dude gets out of his truck, gets onto the roof of his truck, has a baseball bat, is swinging the bat around, yelling and cussing and shit. Bill's already gone at this point. You know, like, what are you even doing? So we're like, oh my God, sir, you're going to have to leave. We're going to send your check back out. You're going to have to leave. Somebody called the cops. I don't even know who it was. We weren't going to do anything. Somebody calls the cops. To be honest with you, I think it was this one. We had two male tellers. It was an older one and a younger one. The older one didn't like Bill because Bill was a good-looking guy and, you know, flirted with the girls and stuff. The older teller guy did not like that at all. He probably called the cops. And, like, so the cops show up. They come in to ask us questions. You know, the rest of the tellers are like, oh, I don't know who it was. I don't know his name. Like, you know, we weren't going to snitch. But then this motherfucker, this older teller guy, we're going to call him Jim. Jim is like, oh, I know exactly who did it. Calls the cop over there, tells him everything. Literally pulls up his account, snitches on Bill. I'm like, oh my God, why did you do that? Like, shut up. You didn't have to tell him anything, man. So the cops end up leaving. We end up seeing Bill's mugshot on Facebook later. There he is. He had gone and turned himself in because then they put out a warrant for him because he beat this guy up. Well, they didn't arrest the other guy. I mean, like, whatever, but I just thought it was crazy. I was like, oh shit.
This is my long-awaited video of my experience working at Altered State. And I just want to emphasize this is going to be my own opinion, my own experience working at Altered State. So let's rewind. I got hired on as an ASM of operations. So basically I saw back of house operations, scheduling, shipment, online orders, and marketing for the store. 2 months in to me working at Altered State, our manager ended up leaving, and I kind of was just thrown into the acting general manager position with no prior experience, barely any training. I had no clue what I was doing, and mind you, it was right before Easter, and Altered State literally goes crazy at Easter. That's one of our biggest holidays. And at the same time, we were also severely low staffed. If anyone knows working in the King of Prussia Mall, how high the turnover rate is, it's literally crazy. We barely had any workers at the time. There was barely any managers. I was drowning. My DM at the time really didn't care. I reached out to her multiple of times, like, I need more people. I need more support. I don't know, like, what I'm doing. Can you please help me? Despite me reaching out and trying all of my efforts to get her in the store to help me with some of this stuff, she really didn't help me. It was really sad, but after a while I did start getting the hang of it, and I felt like I had a really good system down, even though I was working 90 to 95 hours a week. I was exhausted. I literally was exhausted. Looking back now, I just don't know how that is okay to have a manager work 90 to 95 hours a week. That is, like, so unhealthy for somebody, and looking back, I am so sad for myself. I was so skinny. I barely had time for a break. I didn't even get breaks most of the time because I was just always on the go. I was falling asleep in the office because of how tired I was and burnt out. But like I said, after a while, I did end up getting a hang of it, and I was doing really good. I saw myself in the future running my own store, and I honestly didn't end up loving it despite all of that stuff that went on. And at the same time, my DM was telling me, you're doing such a great job. I'm so proud of you. Like, we're going to get you in your own store. Everything's going to be great, yada, yada, yada. But rule number 1, never trust a bitch. She literally lied to me because a couple months later, she hired a girl, let's call her name Penny, from the flagship store. And if anyone knows about the flagship store, they know like it's very cut and clean. Like they're on top of their shit. So they hired Penny to come to the King of Prussia location and basically run the store. I wasn't bitter. I was more upset at my DM because she promised me that store, but I also saw it as a great opportunity to learn from Penny since she was from a flagship store, and I could get this opportunity to look at her as a mentor and like move up within the company. But boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong. First day I met Penny, I just noticed she was really distant. I would try to get to like know her, ask her questions, and she was just staring at the DM the whole time, not even acknowledging that I was there, ignoring some of my questions. I thought that was a little weird, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I thought maybe like she just moved to Pennsylvania. This is a new city for her. She's never been here before. She has no family here, no support system, so maybe she's just nervous. But the next day, we ended up getting audited, and she was there, and so was I. We were in the office with the auditor, and she got mad over something I said and literally screamed and cursed in my face. The auditor turned and looked at me and was like, "What the fuck?" Like, yeah, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Some time went on, and I could just tell she was taking some of my job responsibilities, just trying to like really belittle me, and like I knew she was talking about me to the brand reps because the brand reps were really close with me and would tell me. So that also made me really uncomfortable because like, what the fuck did I do to you? I've been nothing but nice and supportive of you, and I even told her how much I was grateful that she was there. Fast forward to the first big incident. We were in the back room. It was me, Penny, and another employee. Penny was mad about something, and Penny had a box in her hand and chucked it at my face. Literally chucked it at my face. The employee looked at me and was like, Penny decided just to run because I assumed she was really embarrassed because why the fuck would you do that? The employee asked if I was literally okay, and I'm just like, because what the fuck was that? Girl, what? So I brought it up to my DM. She decided to do nothing with it. So I figured, okay, let me just go make an HR report for it because obviously they should care because that's literally assault. No, they did nothing with that information. And somehow Penny found out I reported her even though it's supposed to be anonymous. I hate to do this, but I'm going to make a part 2 because this is just too long. Part 2 on my experience at working at Altered State. So we left off on Penny throwing a box at my face and me reporting it to HR and them not doing anything. I knew at that point I needed to get the fuck out of there just because of how bad it was. And just the comments she would make about my weight and like just the way I would do things wasn't professional at all. And just the way she would treat some of the brand reps, mind you, these brand reps were 18. The comments she was making just to them were vile. I hated it, and it was just really unprofessional. But I want to say a couple months goes by, Penny hires a new assistant manager. We'll call her name Megan. Megan came in, and I noticed Megan and Penny were really close. Me and Megan spoke briefly. We worked together, but like we weren't best friends. But I noticed after a while, like a couple days, Megan was just getting really distant with me, and I just wondered why. And Megan and Penny were always in the office, like looking behind their back to see if Penny was there. And I like obviously knew they were just talking about me. I could feel the energy. But a week later, Megan ended up quitting, not even putting in her 2 weeks. So I texted Megan asking her like, hey, is everything okay? Like, what happened? And I like want to know like, why'd you quit? Because our turnover rate is so high, and I just want to hear it from your experience. I'm going to upload the picture of what she texted me. I already knew that Penny really hated me, but I didn't know she was trying to get me fired and purposely trying to make my life a living hell so I would quit. And when I literally got that text message, I was at work working with Penny, and I just ran to the bathroom and was crying because, like, this is my job and my livelihood, and I honestly really could see myself moving up within the company itself. Even though I did have some, like, bad experiences, I really ended up loving my job and, like, the people I was working with mainly. So I didn't even report that to my DM because I knew I had nobody in my corner besides some of the brand reps and, like, some of the other managers that I would talk to about it. But I knew she had it after me, and I just knew I needed to get my ducks in a row and find another job or go back to college. Towards the end of my time there, Penny had a journal she would keep of everything I would do with the date and time stamps. It was basically her collecting evidence to present to the DM to get me fired. I'm going to insert a text message here of Penny texting me about some of the damages that I did that were covered in piss water, and basically they didn't have any stains or rips in them, so why were they in the damages? Mind you, she knew our toilet in the back room over-flooded and some of these dresses were covered in piss water, and she still decided to put them out on the floor, and she thought she was going to try to do her big one, trying to get me fired and show the DM, see, she's just damaging things for no reason. That kind of was just my last straw with the company because I felt like I have tried to reach out for support. I emailed the VP, I emailed Aaron, I emailed literally everybody higher up to ask them just to please help me and listen to me. Nobody did. And, like, I can go into so much more shit that she's done, but, like, I just knew at the end of the day, nobody there was to protect me, and it was really disheartening for how much time and effort I put into this company just for them to just not care. It's also really sad that they condone certain kind of behavior, such as this picture. Penny ended up posting it on her social media a couple years ago. You can think what you want of that picture, but obviously it's very uncomfortable. And a couple of the brand reps found it very uncomfortable for them and decided to end up leaving because they didn't want to work for somebody like that. And a couple of the girls did report that picture to HR, and they did nothing about it. So if you are somebody watching this video and you are working there right now at Altered State and you just feel alone, just know, like, you are seen and heard, and I wish you would just get out. It's never going to change. It's never going to get better. The company is supposed to be a Christian-based company, but nothing about it is Christian. Altered State is one of the toxic workplaces I've ever worked at and ever encountered, and I am so glad I got out onto better things, and I just really wish more people would know about this and realize, like, who they're supporting. But thanks for listening to my rant. I appreciate you guys. So I just wanted to make a part 3 follow-up because I never really touched base with, like, the corporate side of things and, like, the higher ups, because they are 100% of the problem, and they are why this type of shit just keeps happening, and they just keep condoning it. They know the reports that are coming in, they hear the stories, they see the TikToks, they just literally don't care. As long as that store is making money, they are going to do nothing, literally nothing. And it's really sad because payroll was one of the bigger things that they're always worried about for some reason, even though they are making the money. There was a couple weeks where our sales were low for the week, but again, I had nobody to come and open and close for me, so it was literally just me. And I remember my DM telling me, like, you need to stop putting yourself on the schedule as much. I had no one to come in to open and close for me. I was essentially the only one. I think I had 2 other key holders, but they were only part-time. They couldn't be there 90 hours a week like me. So I remember her telling me, you're going to have to cut back your hours. You can't keep working these many hours. Like, the higher ups are saying something to me. So you know what's so sad and what I would do, and I can't believe I fucking did this? I literally would make sure I was off the clock so I could come in and open, because I knew damn well if I didn't come in, the store wasn't going to open. I remember calling my DM and telling her, like, no one else can come in to open, and I can. I requested off for this day. One of the key holders called off, and I asked her, like, can you come in, and because you used to run the store, can you help me, like, do something, open the store, I'll be there in a couple of hours. She literally told me to drop everything I was doing and to go in the store. Hearing her say that just was like, oh my God, like, they really do not give a fuck. They do not fucking care. There was also a couple other times where we had 100 to 150 boxes a day from shipment, and our back room was piled up with boxes. Piled. I had no one to come in to do shipment, so you know what I would do? I would come in at 4 a.m. and start fucking shipment before I was supposed to be on my shift at 9 a.m. It was just absolutely crazy, and I had no help or support. They knew how much shipment we were getting, and they still decided not to help me. The weekly manager calls with the unrealistic expectations were fucking crazy, especially during holiday. They just want you to work like a robot and make as much money as you possibly can without getting any kind of bonus or getting bribed with a yearly bonus that I still have never seen, even though KOP did such a good job last year. They know what's going on in their stores, and Aaron is just deciding to turn a blind eye, and it's just evil. It's pure evil. I just can't fathom, like, that was my life at one point, and now when I go into Altered State, I see the girls working there, and I just feel so sorry for them because I can see how drained they are, and they just aren't happy. They aren't doing their job. They are miserable. They are literally miserable, and I know they have nobody else there to look out for them, and it just makes me so fucking sad. I just don't understand, like, why this isn't changing, because I know Aaron sees it. He sees the TikToks, he sees the report, he sees the emails, and he's still not doing anything about it.
Story time on how I had a baby at 14 and had to cut off my one and only literally friend. To clarify, this is the cool mom's daughter, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, scroll back a few videos. You're going to see a video that has about 1 million views. We're talking about her. So, I was like 14, I had just had a baby, and she was my only friend, okay? She was very dear to my heart because she was the only person who was still allowed to hang out with me, rightfully so. I was 14, I just had a kid, so nobody's parents wanted them around me, right? So I have my baby. This girl will still invite me over. She includes me, which we love, right? She still wanted to be my friend, or so I thought. Every time I would come over, she would want to do like something crazy. Mind you, I would have to bring my baby with me to come over, and she'd be wanting to do something crazy. She would be like smoking in her house or like trying to smoke around my baby, and I'd have to be like, whoa, like we can't do that no more. Like, but also like trying not to tell her how to live because, like, obviously. Anyway, she'd always want to like smoke and drink and do all these things, and it was whatever. And then like it would get to a point where she would like reach out to me at like midnight, and she'd be like we're rolling, like come hang out. Like they're doing crazy stuff, like she's with a bunch of grown men or just grown people riding around. We're like 14, 15 years old, and I'm like, girl, I can't come. Like I'm at home with my baby, you know what I'm saying? And then like the very last time she asked me, she got so mad at me. She was basically telling me, like, I think I'm too cool for her. I think I'm too good for her just because I had a baby. And then she starts roasting me for having a baby so young. She was like, you knew you wanted this. You did this on purpose and all this extra crap. Like, whoa, who are you talking to? And this is somebody who I considered family. I called her mom. She called my parents, like, mom and dad. Like, it was a whole thing. Like, she was practically my sister. At that point, I realized, like, she genuinely did not like me for who I am or love me for who I am. She literally used me to go out and party. And if I wasn't doing that, it wasn't good enough for her. So when I changed who I was, we couldn't be friends anymore. Anyways, I basically sent her an extremely long paragraph about how much I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't stand her and just like my feelings on the situation, and then I blocked her. It's been over 10 years. Never talked to her again. After so many years of friendship and going through so many things together. Never spoke again. She never congratulated me on any of my other children. She never reached out again. There was a moment of weakness like a couple years ago. I have a new Facebook now, and she added me on Facebook. I had a moment of weakness. I was like, I wonder if she wants to apologize. Accepted. Next day she had unadded me. That girl just wanted to be nosy. But yeah, truth be told, I ain't had a real friend since. Story time on how I had a baby at 14 and had to cut off my one and only literally friend. To clarify, this is the cool mom's daughter, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, scroll back a few videos. You're gonna see a video that has about 1 million views. We're talking about her. So I was like 14, I had just had a baby, and she was my only friend, okay? She was very dear to my heart because she was the only person who was still allowed to hang out with me, rightfully so. I was 14, I just had a kid, so nobody's parents wanted them around me, right? So I have my baby. This girl will still invite me over. She includes me, which we love, right? She still wanted to be my friend, or so I thought. Every time I would come over, she would want to do like something crazy. Mind you, I would have to bring my baby with me to come over, and she'd be wanting to do something crazy. She would be like smoking in her house or like trying to smoke around my baby, and I'd have to be like, whoa, like we can't do that no more. Like, but also like trying not to tell her how to live because like obviously. Anyway, she'd always want to like smoke and drink and do all these things, and it was whatever. And then like it would get to a point where she would like reach out to me at like midnight, and she'd be like we're rolling, like come hang out. Like they're doing crazy stuff, like she's with a bunch of grown men or just grown people riding around. We're like 14, 15 years old, and I'm like, girl, I can't come. Like I'm at home with my baby, you know what I'm saying? And then like the very last time she asked me, she got so mad at me. She was basically telling me like, I think I'm too cool for her. I think I'm too good for her just because I had a baby. And then she starts roasting me for having a baby so young. She was like, you knew you wanted this. You did this on purpose and all this extra crap. Like, whoa, who are you talking to? And this is somebody who I considered family. I called her mom. She called my parents like mom and dad. Like it was a whole thing. Like she was practically my sister. At that point, I realized like she genuinely did not like me for who I am or love me for who I am. She literally used me to go out and party. And if I wasn't doing that, it wasn't good enough for her. So when I changed who I was, we couldn't be friends anymore. Anyways, I basically sent her an extremely long paragraph about how much, I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't stand her and just like my feelings on the situation, and then I blocked her. It's been over 10 years. Never talked to her again. After so many years of friendship and going through so many things together. Never spoke again. She never congratulated me on any of my other children. She never reached out again. There was a moment of weakness like a couple years ago. I have a new Facebook now, and she added me on Facebook. And I had a moment of weakness. I was like, I wonder if she wants to apologize. Accepted. Next day she had unadded me. That girl just wanted to be nosy. But yeah, truth be told, I ain't had a real friend since.
Okay, I've been trying to film this for like 2 days, but honestly, like, I suck at this, so whatever, I'm just gonna go for it. I want to tell the story about my soon-to-be ex-husband and I, but this was back when we were like just dating. So I want to say this was probably like 1.5 years, maybe 2 years into like when we had started seeing each other and were dating. And at the time I was working for a security company in Western Nebraska that was located about 2.5 miles from where I actually lived. And during this time it was like January, so it was like middle of winter out there. If you're not from Western Nebraska or you don't know anything about the winters out there, like they get horrible. I'm talking like -20, -30 degrees with the wind chill, like frostbite type weather. Anyway, my car had broken down, and so I didn't have transportation. And so most of the time I would walk to and from work because, you know, I still had to work, still had to pay my bills. And I worked at 3 to 11. So I would, you know, walk all the way up on the hill, walk to my job, and then at 11 o'clock at night, I would trek all the way back down the hill to my house. And I mean, snow, rain, blizzards, you name it, I walked in it. Well, one day I was like, I don't really want to have to walk home in this crap. And you would think, since I was dating this guy, you know, and he knew I didn't have a car, he would be like, yeah, let me come get you. But he just wasn't that type of person, which, you know. Anyway, one day I called him up like 4 or 5 hours before my shift was supposed to be ending. And was like, hey, do you think you could pick me up, give me a ride home from work tonight, you know? He basically tells me this whole crazy story about how his boss is sending him to the eastern side of this state at like 5:30 on a Thursday afternoon to go deliver some equipment for like this company that he worked for at the time. Now, there were a couple of red flags about his story that made me immediately question him. First of all, red flag number 1 was that he called me to tell me this, okay? That man never called me. We only ever communicated via like text message or Snapchat or like Facebook Messenger when he had Facebook. He doesn't have it anymore, but so that literally threw me off, just the fact that he was calling me. The other thing was too, is that when he called me, like, he was clearly in his vehicle driving, okay? He had windows down. I could hear the wind howling in the background. Like, it was apparent that he was in his vehicle. But to me, when I like heard it and stuff, I was like, he's trying to make it overly apparent that he is driving, right? Anyway, the third red flag was that the thing that he was supposed to be delivering was like a giant spool of wire. I'm talking like those big ones that you see on the side of the road, okay? And he tried to convince me that he was delivering this in his Chrysler Sebring. I of course questioned him over the phone because I was like, none of it's really adding up. He got super defensive and he was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm telling you the truth and blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, dude, whatever. So anyway, I ended up getting a ride home from one of my coworkers. This particular coworker of mine is a transgender, male to female. Okay, I had gotten rides home from this individual many times. And so obviously I asked him for a ride home that night. And you know, he gave me a ride home. Anyway, on the drive home, and I'm not even kidding, this is crazy. On the drive home, I noticed that there was a vehicle following very closely behind us. And I mean, immediately the bells just started going off for me. And I looked at the driver and I was like, somebody is following us. He thought I was joking. And I was like, I'm being so serious. As we started getting closer to my house, I basically told him, like, do not drop me off directly in my house. Like, drop me off a couple of blocks away from my house or whatever. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm sure. Well, on my way there, we were like a couple of blocks away from the house and we pulled up to a four-way stop sign. And we pulled up, he obviously came to a complete stop. Another vehicle came up on the left-hand side to the intersection, came to a complete stop. And can you guess who it was? Yeah, it was my boyfriend. Yeah, he literally told me this whole crazy story, told me that he couldn't pick me up in freezing cold weather so that he could stalk me on my way home from work to see who was taking me home from work. Yeah, so, and it gets crazier than that. I mean, that's not where the story ends. That's where I'm gonna end it, but that's not where the story ends. Anyway, yeah, basically, he's a psycho. He literally has always been that way. I don't know what I was thinking, but you live and you learn, I guess, you know? And unfortunately for me, I always have to learn the hard way. Yeah, so after I saw him at that like stop sign intersection, I ended up jumping out of the vehicle like super quickly and like sprint walking to my house. As I was trying to hurry up and like get to my house, he starts calling me. He's like blowing up my phone and he's like yelling at me over the phone, calling me a liar, had the audacity to call me a liar, which is just fucking comical. And then proceeds to tell me, don't even bother coming over tonight. I'm not going to be home. And so of course my mind is immediately going to like, he's going to go and cheat on me, which like he had cheated on me in the past. So it would be believable. And so I got home, I changed out of my work clothes and I changed into like more dense clothing, better for the cold. And I walked to his house. Now what's crazy about it is that he lived like maybe 6 blocks from me. It would literally take me like 10 minutes to walk to his house. So I feel like, you know, if he was free and available, there was no reason why he couldn't have been taking me like to and from work. But like literally he is just like a selfish and a bad person. Anyway, so I got to his house and he was not there. And so I broke into his house. And I did it through the bathroom window, which was like, it was high up off the ground. Like if I had to estimate, I would say probably like about 8 foot off the ground. And so I got a plastic chair from like his back deck and brought it up by like the fence post and then stepped up onto the fence post. And then I couldn't get the window to stay open. And so I just like took it off the tracks completely so that it wouldn't be falling on me while I was trying to climb through the window. And if you look in the comments of the other video that I posted a picture of like this huge bruise on my leg. I got that bruise
pulling myself through his bathroom window. I like fucked myself up doing that. And then I proceeded to sit in his house for probably about an hour in the dark, in complete silence, waiting for him to get there. And when he did show up, I obviously heard him, come inside. And so I texted him and I was like, I'm here. Well, then I heard him like go to the back door, and he was like looking out the back door looking for me. And he texted me and he was like, where are you? I don't see you. And then I popped out behind him from like inside the house. And I was like, yeah, I'm right here. And then he was like, what the fuck? He was like, how did you get in here? And I swear to God, I literally told him, don't worry about how I got in here. Where the fuck have you been? Yeah, so anyway, I don't even remember if I stayed with him that night or if I went home. I'm sure that we fought and argued all night after that, because that was just the premise of our toxic relationship. But yeah, let me know if you want any other stories, because I have like about 5 years of them. Okay, this is going to be another like little story time on me and my soon-to-be ex-husband. This one is based on like how we essentially met. So this was like 2020, and I had just moved from Iowa back to Western Nebraska, and I was roommating with my, at the time, best friend. Her and I ended up getting like a 2-bedroom house together, and we lived there together for like probably about 4 months. Well, one day her and I ended up getting into like a physical altercation, and she ended up calling 911, and our landlord caught wind of it. And when he found out, he basically was like, you guys have to move out. Like, I don't tolerate cops, being sent to my properties. And so I was, kind of freaking out, panicking, because I was like, man, I don't really have anywhere to go. Like, I'm going to have to move back to Iowa and go move in with my mom, which was like the last thing that I wanted to do. So I ended up going to work that day after everything had happened. We were both issued disturbing the peace tickets. And I did have like a couple of scratches like on my face from the physical altercation. And at this time, I was working at a gas station, and this girl came in who I wouldn't necessarily call her a regular, but I did see her quite often. Like, she would come in, she would buy smoke, she would buy like beer or whatever. And I could just tell like physically that we were like around the same age. Like, I want to say I was maybe like 24, 25 at this time. And she had come in this day and saw the scratches on my face and asked me if I had gotten into a fight. And so I told her that I had gotten into a fight, and that, now my landlord was like going to be kicking us out. And, I was like, I need a place to go. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I was just venting to her, right? And then she proceeded to offer to let me move into her basement. She was like, I have a big house, I have a basement that nobody ever uses, nobody ever goes down into it, like, you can make it into your own little apartment. She was like, but I do have kids, so like that is the catch. And I was like, I love kids, I don't have an issue with kids, like, yes, I promise I'm not a fucking creep, like thank you so much. Like, obviously I was so grateful. I ended up moving in with her. We actually became like really good friends, like really, really good friends. And I loved her kids, adored her kids. I would say probably maybe I had been living with her maybe like 8 months. And she calls me up one day and tells me that her brother was moving from Lincoln back to Western Nebraska. Now, I had not met her brother, but I knew pretty much just about everybody else in her family and had known them for quite some time. But I had seen pictures of her brother, and I was like, he's cute. And she basically was like, you guys are grown adults, do whatever makes your heart happy, right? Well, I went to work one day, and when I came home, he was there just hanging out in the living room, chatting it up with his sister. I, of course, like, introduced myself, chatted with them for a couple of hours. We hung out, and then at whatever time, I went downstairs to go to bed because I had work the next morning. And in the middle of the night, I woke up to my name being whispered at the end of my bed. It was like, Jessie, like that. And I was living in a basement, so it was dark. So I roll over and turn my lamp on. Mind you, I was sleeping without a shirt on. And it was, you know, my husband, my now husband, soon to be ex-husband, standing at the end of my bed in the middle of the night, highly intoxicated, and mere hours after I've met this dude. And he comes down into my room in the middle of the night to ask me if I want to quote unquote fool around. To which I obviously was like, fuck no, I don't know you, get out of my room. When I tell you this man was flabbergasted, he literally was like, wait, really? And I was like, yes, dude, get out of my room. Like, has a woman never told you no? Like, you're cute, but you're not that cute, you know? Anyway, he left. I ended up moving out and getting my own apartment like maybe a month after that. Well, then one day he hit me up on Facebook Messenger and was like, hey, do you want to kick it? And I was like, sure. So, you know, we kind of started hanging out. I would say probably 3.5, maybe 4 weeks into when we were hanging out pretty consistently, like mostly every day. I was at home one day in the shower and his sister calls me and she proceeds to ask me if I have been feeling okay down there. To which I'm like, yes, I feel literally perfectly fine. Why are you asking me these questions? And then she tells me that I guess a night or two prior, her brother had gotten drunk at their dad's house and pulled his dad into the bathroom and was crying to his dad and telling his dad about issues that he had been having down there. And so basically I'm freaking out now and I'm like, so you're telling me I have to fucking go get tested? And she was like, yes. So I got out of the shower and honestly, I think this was like kind of late at night. I'm pretty sure I went to the ER. I went and got tested. And then a few days later, I was actually in a neighboring town a couple of hours over with her, with, you know, his sister, who I had lived with for quite some time. And we were sitting in a parking lot getting ready to go into a restaurant to go eat food. We had gone to this town to go get a starter for my car, I think. And as we're sitting in the car, I get a call from the clinic. I put it on speakerphone. The clinic proceeds to tell me that I am clean and clear for everything. And this is my first, you know, situation with something like this. And so I'm like, you know, is there an incubation period? Do I need to come back in a couple of weeks and get tested again? Like, kind of what's the situation, right? And they were like, well, how long has it been since you have been active with him? And I was like, it's been a couple of weeks. At that point, it had been probably, I would say, 3.5 weeks maybe. And she assured me, like, no, you're definitely good. So then, of course, I sent him, you know, the screenshots of my results and was like, it's not me. Well, he ignored me for several months after that. And years later, I came to find out that he had told everybody that I had given him that STD. And when he finally came clean to me about it, he told me that he actually knew that he had something on the day that he was driving from eastern Nebraska over to western Nebraska, because he said that he basically felt like he could not fully empty his bladder. Like, no matter how much he peed, it felt like his bladder was just so full. And of course, it was painful for him to be urinating. And he told me that he was literally having to stop like every 10 minutes to pee, but every time he would try to pee, he like physically was not able to. And mind you, this was all within like the first couple of months of like us literally meeting and like starting to see each other. So when I tell you he has always been that person, I literally mean since the day that I met him, he has always been that person.
The other night when I was ordering a drink, I told the bartender that I'm a virgin, and he got like super weirded out by that for some reason, and I'm like, dude, you're the one who looked at my ID, didn't believe I was 21, so you asked me my star sign. I was born in September. I'm a virgin. Like, I don't get what the problem.
Okay, story time on how me and my fiance got scammed out of our engagement rings. I had figured out what I wanted. I knew I wanted something custom, something unique. I was looking on TikTok, looking at different jewelers. I looked at videos about her rings and people that have received her rings and how much they loved them and how great quality they were and all the things. And so I decided to purchase from her. And I went through the whole process. I did the deposit, the CAD, I received the ring. So we get engaged November 2nd of 2025, and everything's great. Fast forward a couple weeks, I'm noticing it's looking very dirty, very odd, so I clean it, and it's fine for another couple days. A couple days go by, and I realize that the inside of the band had been scratched, and gold shouldn't scratch. I knew I wasn't doing anything to make it dirty, so I knew it wasn't dirty. So I took it into my jeweler. He said, there's something wrong with this ring. He said it's fake or it's used. I said it can't be used because it's custom made. There's not another one like this that I know of because I customized every single thing. So he said it must be fake metal. So I emailed her and she said, no, there should be no problem. I think it's just dirty. You need to clean it more. And I said I should not have to clean my ring every 2 days in order for it to look real. A couple days later, I was cleaning my fiance's ring and it bent pretty much almost in half, which again, gold should not do that. I thought that was very weird. So I took it to the jeweler, took hers to the jeweler, and I said, something's not right. Something's not sitting with me, that both of our rings now have problems. So he tested the diamonds and he tested the metal and everything came back as fake. The diamonds were, I don't know what, maybe glass. The metal had no gold, none. He checked it for 18 karat, 14 karat, 10 karat. He even checked it for like 4 karat, which no one even makes really, but it wasn't any percentage of gold in either of our rings. So it could have been brass, it could have been aluminum, who knows. So I emailed her and I said, hey, I feel that I got scammed out of what I paid for. We paid collectively thousands of dollars for what we thought we were getting was perfect engagement rings that we were going to have for the rest of our lives. She said, I don't agree with what you're saying. Your jewelers are not checking the right things. I made sure that everything's right. I have a ton of reviews that everyone says that they love my products. No one else has had an issue, so on and so forth. I didn't want to argue further. I said, can I get a refund? My rings are fully fake and I have proof of testing for all of it. A couple weeks after that, she sent me the packing slips. I sent both of them off in the mail, and that was that. Throughout this whole process, I only saw good reviews about her. Up until a couple weeks ago, then I started seeing bad reviews about her. That is the story of how me and my fiance got scammed out of our engagement rings. Now I have a beautiful, real ring from a different jeweler, obviously. Another thing I thought was weird was that she had posted everyone else's rings that looked amazing on her TikTok, but she never posted me or my fiance's rings when they were done, which I thought was odd because why wouldn't she post a custom beautiful ring that was done if it was done well? But yeah, I'll post a picture of her TikTok here, and yeah, that's the story.
Bulletproof, nothing to lose. Bulletproof, nothing to lose.
Story time on how I fired my doula on the way to my birth. A little backstory: with my first pregnancy with my son, I had a very normal, healthy pregnancy, but during the birth, I just felt like I didn't have a very good team. Probably also on me for not doing a lot of research. Basically, after 3 hours of pushing, he wasn't coming out and I had to get switched to a C-section. They told me I was like getting a fever and an infection and that I just wasn't allowed to push any longer. But looking back, especially after having this most recent experience, I really think I just didn't have a great team with me who wasn't teaching me the right ways on how to push him out, if that makes sense. Anyway, this time around I was a surrogate and I was really hoping to have a VBAC. So this time I did a lot of research. I was going to pelvic floor physical therapy every week, and in my research I saw a lot of people recommending hiring a doula. Went to like the government website to find a bunch of people in my area. I think I interviewed with 2 of them. I texted with another one, but I found this girl that I really liked. She was, of course, the most expensive, but she seemed like super knowledgeable. She had been doing this for a long time. She has kids of her own. So I don't know, I liked her vibe. She seemed great.
I talked about it with the intended parents and they were super down for it. They offered to pay for it. She was really nice. We video called a few times. She came to my house for an introduction. She gave me like a bunch of paperwork and information. We had like monthly calls. She was supposed to come to one of my prenatal appointments, but something happened with her schedule where she couldn't come. But I was like, it's fine. I really just want you here for the birth anyway, so that I can have someone there to advocate for me. Because of the first time around, I kind of felt like the C-section was pushed on me. So I thought having her here this time would be better. Fine, you don't have to come to the prenatal appointment. I'll just fill you in. Which I did. All of my appointments, I let her know what they said. So because I was an IVF patient, my OB said that they like to induce you at 39 weeks because they don't want you to go over 40 weeks for IVF, which honestly I was totally okay with because the baby was measuring like really big anyways, and I was induced the first time, so I was totally fine with that. I think they told me that at like 36 weeks. So I told my doula that. She's like, okay, cool. She said she added the date to her calendar. And at this point, we're at the end. So OB appointments are every week. I'm just telling her every time, like, appointment was normal, blah, blah, blah. We're still going on the induction list at this date. Which, going on the induction list for me wasn't like right at 39 weeks, you're going to the hospital. It was like right at 39 weeks, you're on the list, and the hospital will call you when they have an open bed. Could be same day, could be a week later. Which I told her multiple times. I was having to tell everyone that. I don't know why nobody was understanding that. But she said, cool, you know, and she just kept telling me like things to be watching out for and labor signs, all that kind of stuff. Great. Also, I want to add, when I originally paid for her service, I had to pay half of it to start with. And then at 37 weeks, I had to pay the second half, basically to put her on call for any time that I go into labor. She does live about an hour away from me, but like, I knew nothing was going to be that big of a rush, so it would be fine. I also mentioned that like, if I get induced, she doesn't really show up to the hospital until I'm more in like active labor, like 5-6 centimeters, just so she's not there 24 hours, you know, however long it takes. Because really I want her there for like the pushing and the end and all that kind of stuff, which was great. We talked about all of this from the very beginning, and even like laboring at home and telling, you know, all of these things. The plan was always like active labor, pushing, she would be there to help with this stuff. Okay, so jumping back to the story, I'm now 39 weeks, so she's fully paid for, she's on call. I had an OB appointment the day before. Everything was normal. I filled her all in again, you know, okay? Where the next day, I get the call from the hospital to come in for my induction. I'm so excited. I text the intended parents. They're super excited. I call my doula. Like, I am so confused. I call my doula and immediately just silent. She didn't say anything. And I'm like, hello? Like, what's happening? And she is so confused. She's like, what? You're going to the hospital right now to be induced? Like, she didn't know I have been going on this list for the past month. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry for rambling. Okay, part 2 will be right after this.